across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
It is Talk. Welcome to the home of common sense. Thank you to Julia. She's back on Monday right here on Talk, of course. We are going to delve into those official figures showing that nearly 500 migrants a day are signing up for benefits as claims by foreign nationals hits a record high. That's up to nearly 1.3 million. That's gone up nearly 7% in just a year. The Home Secretary, of course, says she's set to speak on this, of course. She's set to announce new migration laws. Will they ever come to anything, bearing in mind the stonking rebellion on the backbenches? Talking of rebellion, Andy Burnham. He's refused to rule out challenging Sir Keir Starmer after Labour MP Clive Lewis offered to stand aside in his seat for him. In a speech this afternoon, the Mayor of Greater Manchester is expected to say that he's providing leadership on growth that Labour needs. Can we just get one thing out of the way? This is Andy Burnham. It's not JFK or Margaret Thatcher, for God's sake. It's, you know, a little lefty pipsqueak from Aintree. I think we should just contextualise what's going on here. And Ed Miliband's Clean Power Plan will add more than 150 quid to annual electricity bills by 2030, despite the falling price of wholesale energy. An analysis of the costs that make up home bills right now show that by the end of the decade, consumers will be paying £264 more a year in green levies in order to decarbonise the grid than they do at the moment. So you can kind of see the direction of travel. This is all over the flipping place. We are living in a world that is all over the place at the moment. I can't get my head around this. I was saying to Julia just then, the numbers involved in issues such as the one we're about to talk about are just mind-blowing, and they are jaw-dropping. 0344 499 1000 is where you will find us. And it's another extraordinary statistic, I suppose, from the government, and one that won't surprise you. We now live, as I was saying, in a world of disturbing or harmless news that's become kind of the norm. We've almost got Stockholm syndrome with our government, and this one is no different in that respect. Nearly 500 migrants a day signing up for benefits as claims by foreign nationals hit a record high, according to official figures. Now, you do, in fairness, have to separate what constitutes a foreign national. This isn't somebody who's just rowed across the channel on a boat and starts claiming universal credit. There are people that have lived here for 20, 30, 40 years, and they pay taxes, they have businesses, their kids are raised here, the kids possibly now even adult, would be entitled to claim in the same way as anybody else would. We get that, but if you extrapolate that from this disturbing figure, you come up with this. Last month, 472 migrants a day began claiming universal credit. How could that even be possible? And I'm going to ask the question, what should foreign nationals be entitled to? 0344 499 1000. We'll open the lines on that one now. These numbers are big. The overall number of foreign nationals receiving rose to 1.3 million, big increase on last year. So we factor out the people who've lived here for years and work and pay taxes, but we're still left with this extraordinary number. The 1.6 million migrants who came to Britain, by the way, as an example, since 2020, as part of the Boris wave, become eligible to seek indefinite leave to remain from January. That's just literally weeks away. Now, of course, under Mahmoud's new scheme, they could face a 10-year wait on claiming benefits under these rules that will be applied to that group retrospectively. And rightly so. This is not about being mean to anyone. This is about basic fairness. And what has happened, and whether you blame the might of the civil service, after all, it is they that remain mostly constant when governments change, who almost always go for the path of least resistance when it comes to changing policy. So this kind of old guff that we're talking about here happened under the Tories. So we can't suddenly say, oh, well, this is all Starmer's fault. I mean, it might have compounded under him, but it was always there. These big numbers came in under Boris Johnson, for goodness sake. And when you consider where we're at now, in theory, that group under the Johnson wave, and we are talking many, many tens of thousands, would be eligible to seek indefinite leave to remain. Now, on what basis would that be the case? Seriously, on what basis? In what world would that be the case? 0344 499 1000. So if I ask the question, what should foreign nationals be entitled to? How do you respond to that? This doesn't really apply to people coming over on boats who can't claim anything, of course. But once you've got the status, once they've said, yep, you can stay here, and you've got that indefinite leave to remain, then your entire position of entitlement shifts. Lines are open. Let's get a word on this with Peter Barnes, political strategist and all-round good bloke. Peter, good to see you.
Nice to see you. How are you doing?
All right. I mean, this one never fully goes away, does it?
No, it doesn't. It's like the John Lewis advert. You can set your watch by it, by what time of the year it is. But I have to admit, it's an interesting question you phrased there, because I think the big problem is language. Entitlement. Why are you entitled to something?
Yes.
And benefits. It's a why. And I always find that the language of these kind of policies is actually part of the problem, because when you take them away, you feel like you're losing something. You feel like something is being taken off you. And I think that obviously it's done deliberately, because the left, for all of their faults, are brilliant at the naming game. Yeah. But I will say that, you know, when we talk about the migrant crisis, we have to be very careful, because it's a very complex issue that we keep broad generalizations, because you have economic migrants, refugees, asylum seekers, all types, and you know, this kind of broad sweeping statements that a lot of people make don't really help. But I have to admit, when over 500 like nearly a day are joining universal credit, it is astronomical.
There is something
and you
wrong.
Cannot have a welfare state and open borders that we have now. You just can't. And I don't understand why anybody in the Labour Party or in the government or in the civil service, the blob, thinks that this is a viable plan. I don't know whether they're that far down the rabbit hole that they refuse to turn around and they don't think they can. But realistically, everything Shabana Mahmood has announced, anything that we hear subsequent, is irrelevant until we look at the parliamentary math to see whether they're going to get anything through to change anything.
Well, let's have a listen to the Home Secretary. This is what she had said about the issue going on at the moment in terms of this whole area. Here's Shabana Mahmood.
The burden that has fallen on this country has been heavy. 400,000 have sought asylum here in the last 4 years. Over 100,000 people now live in asylum accommodation, and over half of refugees remain on benefits 8 years after they have arrived. To the British public who foot the bill, the system feels out of control and unfair. It feels that way because it is. The pace and scale of change has destabilised communities. It is making our country a more divided place.
Well, it's certainly making us a more divided place. I mean, I think to pick up on your point, Peter, you've got the civil service, and you know these are the people that mostly sit there crafting policy and working out.
Well, you'd like to think so.
They throw it to ministers and say, "Does this look about right?" And I do think two things: the old groupthink kicks in. Historic precedence is just the path of least resistance.
Yeah,
and
that's the way we've always done it.
That's the way we've always done it.
That phrase
Do
is
we
a big red
really
flag.
want to have another 2 years of changing it around? You know, there's old Bob there who sits there in a senior position in the Home Office or the Justice, wherever it happens to be, getting them pensions around the corner. We've got our place in Benidorm. I want to go out there with Marge on an annual basis for 6 months instead of 6 days.
Actually, you don't work for the Home Office, because he sounds awfully accurate compared to what I know.
I tell you a lot about Bob, yes. So there's that. There's sort of laziness and malaise that sort of kicks in there. And when it comes to Labour MPs, those entrenched on the left, the sort of physics immovable object left, that lot, they cannot get their head around. The minute you mention the word migrants and benefits and removal or anything like that in the same sentence, they lose their shizzle. I mean, everything goes pear-shaped, they discombobulate, they can't get their head around the idea that this might be something that a country has a duty to look at, a duty to taxpayers.
Yeah, I 100% agree, but I don't think it's just the entrenched left anymore. I think it's even the soft left are even being sucked into this, because the one thing that we haven't got in this country is leadership, and the Labour Party needs it now more than ever, because they're in charge, which is still a terrifying thing even all these months on now. But you know, the problem is, because Keir Starmer is not leading from the front, the power battles that are kind of erupting very brutally these days on the front pages, is causing everybody to kind of factionalize off. And the problem is because nobody wants to compromise, because these are issues of kind of identity, of culture. Nobody compromises on what they think is the right thing to do. On policy, a little bit here and there, you can give and take. But on this stuff, people don't move. And because of that, the broad parties are disintegrating. It's not just the Labour Party. The Conservatives are pretty much, they're still reeling from 2016, to be honest. And I think I've always said reform is a powder keg waiting to blow, because of all these divisions. And that's the point, is that the reason nothing is getting done, the reason everything seems so out of control, is because the last ballasts of the nation, the two-party system, has disintegrated. Many people thought that would be a good thing. I think we're starting to rethink that. And this is not a defence of the two-party system, but at least they kind of, propped the roof up a little bit.
472 claims a day.
It's a staggering number. And do you
know... is there anyone in the room that go, yeah, that's fine?
Yeah.
I'm perfectly
Well, let's not forget
it.
There's already, 1.3 million foreign nationals are already receiving universal credit already, on top of that. And, this number is only going up. It's not steadying off. It's not dropping. And like you said, we've got the Boris wave and that impending doom, And honestly, I've been saying for a long time that the economic catastrophe we're heading to is being underestimated by a lot of people, and hopefully we're starting to see the reality of this play out, because we keep saying that, you cancel net zero or cancel DEI and all this stuff, it'll save some money. It is a drop in the ocean compared to the amount of money that, one, we owe on debt repayments and the interest, let alone to being able to recover anything that's sort of looking like growth. I mean, it's just a fantasy at this point, but I just don't... I'm kind of out of exasperation and words for this crisis, if I'm being honest. Yeah. Because it just seems to... every day you're like, it can't be this bad. Oh, yes, it can.
It certainly can. But there might be light on the horizon with a new Prime Minister soon. I can tell everybody this now. Keir Starmer's woes deepened yesterday, as you would have heard this with Jonathan on the programme. Rebel MP Clive Lewis offered to vacate his seat so that the Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham can become an MP and therefore obviously become the Prime Minister. He's got it all worked out, as our Clive. The polling is disastrous, of course, at the moment for Starmer, budgets and local elections looming. Let's have a listen to the Manchester Mayor speaking a few months back on that issue of Labour leadership.
MPs were in touch with me, but let me also give an honest explanation of what I said to those MPs. It's not up to me. It's not my decision. That's a matter for you, for the party in Parliament. And also I said to them, and it's got to be about more than a personality contest. The Tories were just constantly going through this at the latter end of the time that they were in government. It's got to be about a plan, a proper plan for the country and a proper plan to beat reform.
And this morning on BBC Breakfast, I think it was, he was challenged again, didn't rule it out. Clive Lewis saying, no, we've got to get Andy. Can I just make a point here, Peter?
Yeah.
We're talking about Andy Burnham here, not JFK or Margaret Thatcher, for goodness sake.
As a man
this is just a fairly sort of moderate, middling, lefty kind of bloke, working class fella from Aintree. I'm sure he's a nice fella.
No, he's not.
But
he's not. I'm from Wigan, so I fall under the Greater Manchester Mayor. And let me tell you now, he has done more to decimate that area than anybody else. He stokes more divide than anybody else. He plays the north-south divide like it's a $2 fiddle.
What they get down there.
Yes, he plays that kind of London just takes everything kind of narrative. And, for a while it works for him. But when you actually look at the local polling, the Greater Manchester is about to be caught up in the teal tsunami. It's got to go pretty much all reform. So he is literally looking to hop, skip and a jump quickly out of that. I think this is more about political survival for him than anything else. He doesn't really want to be the mayor that lost the city of Manchester, to reform. I think that's the moniker he doesn't want. He rather likes the King of the North thing that was his moniker over COVID. But I tell you now,
that's next year, isn't it?
Yeah. Let's not go there. Let's get through. I want
to be there tomorrow, Peter. I want this to happen now. I want this excitement.
Yes. When you say it's excitement, but for me, it's all just a bit of a damp squid, because it's all completely irrelevant. Because most of the Labour Party aren't going to be re-elected at the next general election. So you can reshuffle the deck chairs on the Titanic, but it's still heading towards the iceberg. And this is the point: is that. This is why I think Starmer isn't going anywhere, because the NEC, for all of their stupidity, and it is very high, the National Executive Council of the Labour Party are not going to allow a leadership election until there is a unified candidate. Now, Andy Burnham seems to be the heir apparent, but he's not an MP, so he has to get his seat, and then there's a lot of steps to get there. All the while, they've got to try and run the country in the middle of an economic crisis, a migrant crisis, geopolitical, everything's blowing up everywhere. The idea that this is ever going to happen, I just don't see it, because realistically, most of Keir Starmer's big challengers, they are going to lose their seats. West Streeting is a 1.1% majority. Shabana Mahmood took her cathedral-like majority down to less than 3,000. What else have you got? Yvette Cooper, she's gone. Ed Miliband, he's on Nigel Farage's hit list as #1 to get rid of. So the idea that anybody's going to replace Keir Starmer competently just doesn't exist in my brain.
It probably doesn't. And again, if they're looking for some kind of powerhouse of political thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea that you would
name another one.
You'd come up with Andy Burnham.
Yeah, I can't name another one though.
I'd rather Jeremy Corbyn was there. At least I knew where I stood with him.
Yeah. I'd be out the country, I imagine. But
I think we probably all would be. We'd be booking coaches.
I'd be in the queue at Heathrow, but
I'll be on a boat from Dover to Calais.
Yeah, that's true. But whether one in, one out, is it voluntary? Can we go as well? But I know, honestly, it's just preposterous. But this is what happens when political parties dominate the system. They kind of promote through loyalty, not meritocracy, and you end up with this lot in charge on all sides of the house. I will say, it's not just the Labour Party that have this problem.
Yeah.
The lack of talent in this Parliament is just shocking. I know. I mean, I get phone calls from backbenchers now saying, "What does this mean?" And we're looking at primary legislation. We're looking at some of the big stuff, and I'm like, this is terrifying, absolutely terrifying. But it's not a new phenomenon, but it's taken up to the nth degree now because the system is collapsed. Well, I don't like this declining or anything. It's collapsed. It's done. Yeah. We have to draw a line, and then we can move on from it. If we just allow us to keep falling, we're never going to stop falling. We have to draw a line and say enough. And unfortunately, the Labour Party don't seem to be able to do that because you can't decide how far is too far.
This is very true. We'll throw that question out there as well. Would Andy Burnham, I can't even believe I'm going to ask this, would Andy Burnham make you vote Labour? Would you look at that and go, Burnham's back? I mean, I reckon half the country haven't got a clue. No, probably 90% of the country have not got a clue who Andy Burnham is. So Clive Lewis, I mean, whatever you make of him, he's probably even less known than Andy Burnham. But the idea that he's going to vacate his seat for this sort of powerhouse of political thinking in Andy Burnham who's going to turn Labour's fortunes around. I mean, it's an absolute nonsense. Your thoughts on that? And the question about who we give benefits to. We have an unsustainable welfare system. It can't go on. It will collapse the entire economy in just years to come. So who should be entitled? What foreign nationals in particular? What should they be entitled to? 0344 499 1000. Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
And if, by the way, you're a kind of constituent of, if that's the right way to put it, but you're under the auspices of Andy Burnham as the Mayor of Greater Manchester, just give us your take on what kind of mayor. I know, certainly down in London, when the subject of Sadiq Khan comes up. Obviously, gibbering lefties absolutely love a bit of Sadiq, because he's put the cameras in. That's a good thing. Like nobody steps back and goes, really? You put a load of more cameras than flipping China? Good Lord. That's apparently a house point for Khan. What's it looking like over there in Manchester, if that's your neck of the woods? And how has Andy Burnham to you fared as mayor? And I ask this question in the spirit of the story, which is that there are some people agitating that he should become the leader of the Labour Party and therefore the Prime Minister. Is he the man that could make good fodder down there at number 10? Thoughts on that? 0344 499 1000. We have Peter Barnes with us, the political strategist, looking at big stories of the day. Let's move to this one. Ed Miliband, the gift that keeps on giving. His clean power plan is going to, you've guessed it, hike bills by about 160 quid over the next few years. Even Rachel Reeves's budget tweaks, most won't pay less long term. And Labour's massive grid and low carbon spend is still being dumped, of course, where? On consumers. Let's have a listen to good old Ed convincing us, convincing you that everything's going to be okay.
The news that energy bills are rising is going to be worrying for many families. It's happening because we're so reliant on fossil fuels, in particular gas. And the markets that determine the price of those fossil fuels are controlled by the decisions of petrostates and dictators. So we've seen a 15% rise in the price of wholesale gas. What's government going to do? We're going to have your back. And the truth is, the most important thing we can do is stick to our clean power mission. Homegrown, clean power that we control. Solar, wind, nuclear. That's the way we get off the roller coaster of fossil fuel prices. That's the way we take back control of our energy security. That's the government's mission for our country.
Solar, wind, nuclear.
If he's a gift...
He's got it sorted, Peter.
Yeah, but if he's a gift, does he come with a receipt so we can give him back?
That's right.
Because I swear, what we've just heard is an absolute load of claptrap. The foreign oil prices are not set by petrostates and dictators. It's set by the market forces like everything else is. It's just nonsense and scaremongering to try and justify the fact that Ed Miliband has made Britain poorer, and it's made it colder, and it's made it less productive, and everybody's miserable. And it is all down to that man, because his pathological and religious-like zealotry over net zero is going to sink the nation. He has to be stopped, because it's not just the fact of the price of electricity going up. It's the fact that we will never get growth, because you need cheap, reliable energy for any modicum of growth. What's the thing that's interesting about this independent report that's come out is it is done by an AI company, and basically it's also very in favour of decarbonisation. So it's one of theirs, not one of ours. And I tell you now, even they're saying this is going to happen. And if you realise that AI is only going to get bigger, and our dependency on electricity and our dependency on the the technology world is only increasing, where Britain will slow down and we will fall behind because we can't afford to pay anything. We can't afford to run anything. We can't afford to turn the lights on. In what world do we think we're going to be some kind of tech leader if we can't turn the computer on because with the wind's not blowing that day? It is preposterous nonsense, and the man has to be stopped. I do not understand how you could have GB Energy, for example. The chief executive, I think there's only 3 people work for it technically, said, oh, well, we don't know whether we'll make a profit. I was like, you're designed to make a profit. and you don't know whether you do it. Why are you even here? What are you even for? It is money being thrown around at nonsense and just costing everybody money. And more importantly, it is costing us time, because we have so little time to turn this all around to get any modicum of growth, because growth is so important. Growth will fix so many things. The economy is the root of how you fix every issue in this country, and it will not happen with this lot in charge. In 2 weeks' time, it is going to be a bloodbath.
What about his nuclear option on this, as it were? I think there's something that's been unveiled in Wales. These things take a bit of time to put together as well. So we're not talking about Sizewell Seas, but these kind of mini hubs. If you
done by Rolls-Royce and these kind of companies. These are great. However, one thing you need to do is actually bring down the operational costs and the time frame to which you get everything planned through. So this is so everyone keeps saying nuclear is the option. I agree, but you need to do a lot more on the kind of operational and logistics side to get it going again, because as per usual, this country doesn't like to build anything and then complains that we don't build anything, you know, because there's a newt or a bat somewhere, they're like 15 miles away, so therefore an entire development has to stop. This is the thing. We cannot move forward when these obstacles are in our way, and more importantly, when the government is the obstacle, we have an even bigger problem.
Yeah, you're right. When you said the word obstacle in the government, I was just trying to think of how many obstacles are in the way of common sense around that. And
it's somewhat of a slalom course for this long.
It's a bombardment, isn't it? And let's finally look at this story. 75% of parents regularly let their kids off school. Emotional absences, this is under the banner of 49% regularly, 26% occasionally, averaging 6 mental health days per year. So the kid says, I'm not feeling great. The parent says, you don't have to go to school. Yeah.
Then do not complain when these kids, when they get into the workforce, take so many days off work.
Yeah.
You raised them this way. Why are you so surprised that they act this way? This is my big problem when people blame Gen Z or young people for not going to work. You raised them to be like this.
Sure.
So I do think a lot of the blame lies firmly on the parents, and you've got to kind of kick them out. You know, emotional days. My parents don't even have emotions. We were from the north of England. You know, we were raised, you go to school. That was the thing. I think collectively, I must have only had, maybe 10, 12 days off school. Because that was the thing, you go to school. It was, you know, it was like you broke your leg, just put a wet paper towel in it and off you go.
100%.
Yeah, and yet that has disappeared. So when those people come into the workforce, into society, they become the main drivers, and you suddenly realise we've stalled. You have to look about how they were raised. You can't blame somebody for behaving a certain way when that's all they've ever known.
Having a bit of a cold was not a reason to be off school.
I'm from the north. We always have a cold.
Yeah.
I didn't realise you could take your coat off till I moved to London.
Yes. That only came in about 1983.
Oh, right.
Apparently, yeah. Other than that, it was compulsory coats at state schools.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, it's extraordinary, isn't it, that the difference, which I don't think is just about kids and parents, it's about the workplace, it's about our kind of thoughts and dedication, our standards, our bars where we
also have to realise that the world that we live in is so radically different for younger people in terms of you've got the social media, you've also got, we're going through the new industrial revolution with AI, you've then got low economic growth, you've got geopolitical tensions. This is the first generation really in the workforce that has no cushion. In other words, if you fall, it's a very long way to drop.
Yes.
And that's the one thing I think a lot of more, say, older people don't quite grasp is it's not when they were growing up where you know the average house price was £10,000, it's now £283,000. That is a big difference, and you suddenly wonder why everyone's so depressed. It's because they're never going to hit the target that we promised was going to happen.
Yeah. Did you say the average house price used to be £8,000?
Yeah, roughly.
I mean, it's just,
I presumed it was that or like 2 turnips and a carrot. I don't know, because the idea that my generation can really get on the property ladder, you know, as a single person is probably impossible, I would say, at this point. You know, and it's laughable. But again, it annoys me so much when people blame young people for all of the world's problems, and it's like, they merely inherited your mess. And it is about time that we started to take a little bit of accountability while we're demanding it from everybody else.
Indeed.
The welfare bill is a prime example.
Peter, we hit the clock, but thank you.
Yep.
Good to have you with us. Peter Barnes with us on the programme. He's back on tonight with...
Yes, with Andre and Ash.
Andre and Ash on the big show. That's always a fairly explosive affair,
Yes,
isn't it?
yes. But that's even without me.
Indeed. Listen, lots to get through here. Thank you to Peter. Over to you, 0344 499 1000. We're going to talk to Charlie Downs as well in a second from Restore Britain, who's got one or two views on the amount of people claiming benefits on a daily basis. Now, extraordinary story, details on that. We're talking Andy Burnham. The woes of the Labour Party just get worse. Is Burnham the answer to all that? I mean, it's just, this is how bad it is. Of all the politicians out there and of all the various people that could be politicians, the one that some people are settling on is Andy Burnham. Could be our saviour, like he's Mahatma flipping Gandhi or something. Good Lord. 0344 499 1000. Our lines are open. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Comes from Paul, who says, Ian, I've got family and friends who lived in Manchester for years. They tell me constantly that the once great city is now a cowshed. Burnham has overseen total decline. He would never be voted back in. Con man and one-trick pony. One-trick pony king of the north. Yeah, there is that kind of sense. I wonder what the... I mean, it's the same thing with Sadiq Khan. If you're big supporters of these people, and it happens across... In fact, I was trying to have this conversation with somebody last night. It happens across the spectrum in so many areas that entrenchment in your political views, I sense, has never been greater, whether you're left or whether you're right, whether you are following a politician, whether you're following a celebrity, whether you're following someone on the radio, whoever it happens to be. If you agree with that person, then they can do almost anything. Doesn't matter what it is. So when Trump calls, you know, and it is relevant that it was a female reporter, you know, quiet piggy, quiet or something. I mean, that's just unpleasant, right? But, you know, Trump supporters go, yeah, he socked it to her. She's from Bloomberg or whatever it was. And they're rubbish. They're probably fake news as well. I mean, that's the kind of weird world we live in. That said, there does seem to be objectively big questions over the capabilities of mayors, and I'm thinking of two big cities here, Manchester and London in particular, where I don't think anyone with a straight face would say, yeah, life's been so much better since these guys came in. And I don't imagine people had much good to say when it was, certainly when London was run by a Tory man, Boris Johnson, for a couple of terms as well. You wonder how effective these guys can ever really be? 0344 499 1000. Your thoughts on that. And let's move then to the story that we began with. Nearly 500 migrants a day are signing up for benefits, with foreign universal credit claimants hitting almost 1.3 million. That is up 6.7% year on year. The Home Secretary is speaking now on this very issue in the Commons, unveiling her earned settlement plan. Is it going to be strong enough? Will it get through? Will anybody be listening? Let's speak with Charlie Downs, Campaign Director at Restore Britain. Afternoon to you, Charlie.
Hello, Ian.
Now, of course, we have to look at the numbers a little closely when we talk about how many foreign nationals are claiming. Of course, that could include people who've been here for 20 years, 30 years, have a life here, worked all their life, pay taxes, etc. That's a very different story to people who've just been given settled status or right to remain, right to permanency, who've only been here for about 4 years. So there's more than one story going on here, as it were.
Yes, indeed. I mean, I was listening to Mahmoud's speech in the Commons before we came on, and it was pretty strong stuff. I mean, she is being compared to Oswald Mosley by kind of people online on the left, which I think is pretty funny. The idea that just simply addressing the fact that Britain cannot foot the welfare bill of the entire world, somehow makes her some kind of fascist. It's just so funny. But this is a huge problem, and Labour are sensible to address it, if for no other reason than for their own survival. Because if they don't get a handle on the many problems caused by both legal and illegal immigration.
Sure.
They are going to get crushed at the next election, and the quality, the actual well-being of ordinary people in this country is going to continue to decline. Something that we revealed this week, Ian, was the fact that almost £37 million has been spent of taxpayers' money since 2019 on translation and interpretation costs for those claiming benefits. So if you just get your head around what that means, these are people who can't speak English, who are here largely at our expense, who have to have a translation service provided to them at our expense to claim benefits. In
order to claim benefits. I mean, you can't make that sentence up, right? I mean, that would sound like hogwash anywhere else.
Yeah, and this is the point is, I am a big believer in a welfare state. I think it's an entirely appropriate thing for a country like Britain to have. I think this kind of American attitude that if my neighbour gets cancer or falls on hard times, then it's not my problem and he should, pull himself up by his bootstraps. I don't like that attitude personally, and I do think that we should be where we can, kind of banding together to help those less fortunate in our society. Now, that can only extend to the borders of this country, however, because if it extends beyond those borders and if we just welcome in millions of people from all around the world, many of whom are claiming benefits at our expense, then the state that provides those benefits is going to collapse because it's going to run out of money. And so we just have to get real about this issue. And I think that's what Labour appear to be doing. And whether they're actually going to follow through on this stuff remains to be seen. But it's an encouraging direction of travel, in my view.
I mean, Can Labour really steal Reform's clothes on this one? I mean, it would be extraordinary. One of the problems I sense on this a little, Charlie, is that many people are not buying Shabana Mahmood as the messenger here. Her previous track record on these issues suggests she sits in more of a Corbyn place than she does a Farage position on this kind of stuff. She's, out there. She's filmed herself previously talking about the rights of migrants. Now, of course, you can do both. You can talk about being fair to people who are literally in desperate need. We all understand that position. But this is, completely new territory. I mean, she's talking about this Boris wave of people that came in, the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands since that came in really under Boris Johnson. So this is only in the last 5 years. And those people become eligible to seek indefinite leave to remain from January. Now, she wants to make this retrospective. So that particular group that were thinking, right, we're only a few weeks to go and we can apply for indefinite leave to remain. God knows under what basis they would, but they would be allowed to. She's saying, no, we're not going to allow that to happen. You've got to be here 10 years. You've got to prove you can do this, and do that. I think most people would support that. I mean, we might ask questions as to how these people got here in the first place, but if they're not working, if that is the case, but it would be a very big departure from what you might call standard left-wing thinking on this.
I actually think that she's closer to a Blairite, to be honest. Because the one thing about Tony Blair, whatever you want to say about him, is that I don't think was a particularly. You listen to him now, and he's driven by pure kind of pragmatism. Like, he's not a deeply ideological person, unlike other people on the Labour benches. And I think it's those people that are going to cause Mahmood some problems in passing these reforms, because they are actually driven by a kind of dogmatic commitment to human rights ideology. But Mahmood, I think I'm prepared to accept that she is somebody who can look at the situation as it is and recognizes what needs to be done about that situation, because it's not an ideological point. It's just sensible and necessary that the Boris wave, and by the way, her using that phrase in and of itself is quite funny, because that's a phrase that finds its origins on the kind of very online right. And so the fact that a Labour Home Secretary is using it is just quite funny to me.
Yeah.
But the fact that these people who came here as a part of what she calls a Tory open borders experiment, which is true, are going to cost the taxpayer upwards of £60 billion over the course of their lifetime, because they are largely unskilled workers and their dependents who are a net burden on the taxpayer. She will be looking at the same spreadsheets that we all are, the same graphs that we all are, and recognizing, look, if we don't sort this out, it's going to be a huge problem for our electoral future, and actually for the future of the country itself. So I think that if they were to ignore this, and if they were to double down on the kind of diversity is our strength, we need mass immigration for our economy kind of narrative, then, I think it would be the end of the Labour Party. Now, if they can turn this around, if they can turn around the problems with illegal and legal immigration, then I think that a reform government in 2029 is not a given, because it's really those issues that are getting people so angry, and rightfully so, because these are the most pressing issues of our time in this country. But if Labour can actually, put a lid on this and put this, what Starmer called a squalid chapter of our history in his Islands of Strangers speech, behind us.
Which apparently doesn't remember saying.
Yeah. Yeah, well, indeed. Yeah, I think it could be very interesting, though, how the political landscape changes.
Agreed. You wonder where it kind of leaves the Tories in all of this as well. So this is what she's been saying in the House of Commons. She's, I think she might have finished speaking now, but she certainly had a lot to say in that session. She told the Commons these new recommendations are subject to consultation, but the government proposes that those who've received benefits for less than 12 months would not qualify for settlement until 15 years after arrival. For those who've claimed benefits for more than 12 months, that would rise to 20 years. Not quite sure why it works that way round, but there you go. That's what she's talking about. I wonder how much, though, the kind of right to settlement, if you tell someone, right, if you come into this country illegally, for example, I know this figure takes in all kind of foreign nationals and migrants, etc., and the pie chart kind of does divvy different groups up into different categories. But if you, for example, had come over on a boat and somebody said, if you come to the UK, it might be 20 years before you can apply for proper residency, I think people on those boats would go, I don't care, as long as I'm there, I don't mind. I might still have a limbo status, but that's fine by me. Is that really something that's going to put people off, Charlie?
I think that's absolutely crucial, Ian. I think you're right. I think that a lot of people are going to hear this and think, well, I don't care. Whether that's because they're coming to work in the kind of grey or black economy, which is huge in this country, whether that's pedaling on a bicycle, delivering fast food to people, or selling drugs. We have a huge problem with both of those things. Illegal migrants being able to do both of those jobs almost without any kind of comeuppance. So this is the crucial question, is whether any of this is actually going to work. Because obviously the ideal outcome, in my view, of these reforms on both asylum and indefinite leave to remain would be to see a net outflow of people who are here at the taxpayer's expense, arrived in the last few years, don't really contribute anything to our society, don't speak English, don't make their kind of they don't make any attempt to integrate, whatever that even means at this point.
But it's that group, isn't it? That is the group. Yeah.
It is, it absolutely is. I mean, they are by far the most visible examples of this. But whether it will lead to that, I think very much remains to be seen. And more to the point, there is always this, this question of, sure, you can pass a law and you can have something in statute books and all the rest of it, but is it actually going to be enforced? Is it going to be able to be enforced? Because I'll give you an example of this, Ian. I think it was 2015, there were some guidelines passed with regards to the treatment of foreign nationals in the NHS, and basically the way in which people are assigned what's called a chargeable status, which is to say they have to pay for their NHS care.
Yeah.
And there are, I believe, 6 or 7 charging categories, which encompasses everybody from, foreign nationals to tourists to literally illegal migrants. Charging category F names illegal migrants as being one of the groups that it would kind of be assigned to. And in 66% of cases, 66% of the time, the NHS does not recoup the costs that they the money that they spent on the treatment of these people. Yeah. So this is a real problem. So we can have something on the books which says illegal immigrants have to pay for their healthcare, for example, but whether it actually happens in reality is a different story. Because right now, in that case, that's not happening. And so whether these reforms are actually going to lead to anything remains to be seen. Whether they're going to have the balls to enforce these things and to step over, inevitable human rights claims and activist lawyers and judges who are going to seek to be an obstacle to this stuff, I think is going to be the real question.
Yeah, bang on. Charlie, thank you as ever. Charlie Downs with us. He is campaign director for Restore Britain, works alongside Rupert Lowe on some real initiatives in this area. You heard that figure they uncovered about translation services. What was it 37 million quid on translation services, just not for all other areas, just for people to be able to claim benefits. Now, that's not an inflammatory comment, it just happens to be a fact. When you hear stories like that, you realise we are up the what's-it without a paddle. Let's take a call. Mike's in Wiltshire on this issue of immigration. Mike, what have you got for us? Good afternoon.
Hi. Just a couple of points. I'd like to see this country working with the EU over this problem. If they close, I may have spoken to you about this before, but if they temporarily close their borders, it slowed down the flow of people across Europe.
Yeah.
And then if these people still continue to get in boats and come over here, I think we should build what I call flat pack detention centres, prefabricated buildings in the middle of nowhere where they can't mix with the local population and cause chaos while their case is being heard. And I think if potential illegal immigrants want to come to this country, it will definitely slow down the problem and hopefully eventually eliminate it.
At the moment, there's no way around this, is there, Mike? The idea that you arrive in Dover and by 6 o'clock you're in a hotel room.
Yeah, that's all wrong.
I mean, quite clearly, that is an attraction to coming here. There's no doubt about it. And even if, look, I've never believed that every migrant is a wrong 'un or a rapist. I'm pretty sure many of them want a job if they could get one. I don't know what kind of job, but they probably want one. But that isn't the point. We don't know who they are. We don't know where they've come from. We don't know anything about them. And until we do, you've got to have a slightly more, a more military approach to how you deal with tens of thousands of people.
Yeah. And I also think it's a bit of a nerve with the government expecting the British public to pay for it.
I mean, no one with a straight face could create an argument that you and I would sit there and listen to I don't know, somebody from the Home Office say, oh, these are the reasons, and expect us to go, yeah, now you've said that, that makes sense. I mean, there is no sense in this. We're also importing low-skilled labour as well, by the looks of things. We've got hundreds of thousands of people. What was it Shabana Mahmood said last week? 400,000 people in the last few years have come here. And to contribute what? Even if every one of them is a lovely person and kind to their mums and would walk their dog in the evening and do diligent stuff and pick up litter and, or even if all of that was in place. I mean, how seriously could anybody argue that that is something a tab the taxpayer should pick up? It really isn't. Mike, thank you very much indeed. Great first caller. Some comments on Andy Burnham as well. This from Paul in Consett, who says, if Andy Burnham is the answer to the question, if Andy Burnham is the answer, then the question is one that is not suitable for polite company. It's a very good point as well, isn't it? This one in from Nick, who says, getting Andy Burnham to be running the Labour Party is like turkeys voting for Christmas. He is to Manchester what Sadiq Khan is to London. Nothing else to be said there, really, is there? Keep up the great work, says Nick in Horsham. Thank you, Nick, for that. More from you in a second. 0344 499 1000. Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
It is Talk. This one from Lee, who says, I'm not a Green Party voter, but what would be hilarious is if Clive Lewis handing his seat to Burnham, who then gets beaten by the Greens in a by-election. That would be hilarious, wouldn't it? I mean, they are working on the basis that it's a shoo-in. What's Clive Lewis's majority, Finn? Did we establish that? We'll get that detail in a couple of seconds. It's about 56%, so he's in a firm, a firm territory of redness. But of course, that was the last time they looked at it. 59%, so it's a very safe Labour seat. But who the hell knows what could happen these days? It's all gone upside down, right? This is Dan in Portsmouth. Dan, what have you got for us? Good afternoon.
Hello, mate. It's really, I'm kind of gone off topic a little bit. I just had to pick up what your guest earlier said. I get really frustrated when they say this about... Yeah, it drives me mad. I've called about it before. Of course, it's more difficult. It is. No one's ever going to deny that. Yep. Is it impossible? No, it's not. Yeah. All right, because all you got to do is simple as it. Both my kids have done it. You've been the coffees from Starbucks. You've been the lip fillers. You've been the nails. You've been the foreign holidays every year. You've been the really nice new cars. When did you last see a car broken down by the side of the road with some young teenager scratching his head looking at it? You don't, because they're all driving BMWs. Their first cars. Their first cars nowadays are something it's just to behold. So the priorities are just completely wrong. If you're safe, if you've been all that rubbish, you've been the Louis Vuitton handbags and all the trappings of a celebrity lifestyle, of course you can afford to buy a property. Both my kids have done it.
Do you know what? Yeah, you're right. The idea that no youngster is buying a property is nonsense, because every day mortgages are okayed in their thousands for people who are under 30.
The idea that it's impossible is a nonsense.
Yeah, it is.
It's impossible.
I mean, it has proportionately got more expensive. There's no doubt about that.
For sure.
Because property prices have just gone through the roof. You're absolutely right. Do you remember when you were a kid, though, Dan, and you would... if you spotted a new car on the road, it was a big moment, wasn't it? Oh, look, there's a new car, brand new plate.
Kids, I see it all the time, and I don't want to keep blowing their own trumpet. Both my kids, their first cars, they drove around and banged up old smokers that they paid less than sort of 600 quid for. But they were the unusual ones. Nowadays, a kid can go out and spend £3,000 or £4,000 on a car. Yeah. And it's a nice car. And they just don't realise that you go without that stuff. If getting on a property ladder is what you want, bin Starbucks, bin your lip fillers, bin your gym membership, and save. It's not rocket science.
Save, yeah. That's a whole different territory of understanding, isn't it, for some people, that the idea that you might have to save up for something, kind of went out the way. And also, you can drive a brand new car off the forecourt for about 100 quid if you get the right finance deal, but you've got to finance it on a monthly basis, and that monthly payment, is probably half of what a mortgage would be. So...
Two words. The middle. It used to be a middle class thing. It was the main difference between the middle class and the work class. Deferred gratification. It's as simple as that. And nowadays they're not interested in it.
I love it. Dan, great call. Thank you very much indeed for that. He's absolutely spot on. There is. I mean, young people do still buy houses. It has got difficult. It's clearly proportionately the cost of housing has gone up. And that makes it tricky. The requirements of deposits have changed by some lenders, where you're required to produce, a substantial amount beforehand. That there are some lenders have kind of become a little more malleable on that over the last couple of years. But it's tricky, but it's not impossible. George is in Dundee on Labour leadership. George, what have you got for us? Hi.
Hi, Ian. You were asking if you would vote Labour if Andy Burnham became leader.
Yeah, sounds like a joke question, doesn't it, really?
Well, I mean, he can't even answer a straight question. He can't even answer a straight... He's not even in yet, and he can't answer a straight question. And look at what he's up against. Keir Starmer, that's never here, and you've got Ed Miliband, who have just listened to an interview telling everybody, as he puts the electricity bills up again, that their government's got our backs. I mean, these people just didn't really get it. I wouldn't vote for Labour if they were the only option on the ballot paper.
What if they offered you 10 grand?
No chance. I look at them and I listen to your guests saying the depth of talent is incredible, and they don't even know what they're getting across their desk. They're emailing the guy and phoning the guy and saying, "What does this mean?" These people, we deserve so much better, but you only get what you vote for. You cannot vote these people in again.
Well, I mean, it wasn't a massive share of the vote, of course, this last election, George, as you know, but it was the party that got the most votes. And I find that extraordinary. Remember, Keir Starmer was Keir Starmer then like he is now. I mean, it's not like we've suddenly unveiled this new... we knew what he was all about, and many of the people that sat alongside him. George, thank you very much indeed, that wouldn't even vote for Labour if he was given £10,000. What about £10,000 a cockapoo and a box set of Blackadder? Would that do it? Maybe? Throw in some Only Fools, maybe, just to ramp it up a little bit? Thoughts on this? Alan in Liverpool, what should migrants be entitled to? A bed, porridge bowl, and quickly a one-way ticket back to where they came from. Although that suggests, and thank you, Alan, for that, but we're not necessarily talking about people who came over on boats. We're talking about people who might have come here legally, who want the leave to remain, who have the leave to remain. That's the tricky area. Tom says, give them a job. Well, most of those people can work, and many people working are also claiming benefits as well, but they're not distinguishable from current indigenous taxpayers, if that's the correct phraseology. 0344 499 1000 is where you'll find us. Let's get the news headlines at 2.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
It is Talk, 0344 499 1000. We are looking at those official figures that show nearly 500 migrants a day are signing up for benefits as claims for foreign nationals hit a record high. Of course, many of these people will be legally entitled to be in this country for many years. But there are some troubling numbers here. The overall number of foreign nationals receiving it rose to nearly 1.3 million. That's an increase of nearly 7% year on year. And Shabana Mahmood, as we know, has been speaking in the House of Commons, unveiling these seismic changes. Legal migrants who claim benefits in the UK face up to 20-year wait for settled status. This is legal migrants. Your thoughts on that? We're also discussing Andy Burnham, who's refused to rule out challenging Sir Keir Starmer after the Labour MP, Clive Lewis, offered to stand aside to let him have his seat. Really? The speech this afternoon that the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, is expected to give will say that he's providing leadership on growth that Labour needs. But he's not ruling anything out. Talk about that in a few moments' time. And Ed Miliband, he's got his clean power plan, but apparently it's going to add 150 quid to the annual cost of your electricity bill over the next few years, despite falling prices for wholesale energy. An analysis of the costs that make up your home electricity bill show that by the end of the decade, consumers will be paying £260 more a year in green levies to decarbonise the grid than they do at the moment. Ed says we're saving the world. So fast forward might be a bit rough, but don't worry, clean, independent energy, homegrown as well. Is he right or is he off his chump? 0344 499 1000. Oh, by the way, Clive Lewis's seat, I think it was a 47% share of the vote. 59% was the turnout in his constituency. It was 47%. So even if he stood aside, there was a by-election. So, yep, safe Labour seat and all of that. But as somebody suggested earlier, what would happen, it was Lee in Saffron Walden, if the Green Party won the seat, or reform or something, didn't go according to plan, perhaps. More comment on Mr Burnham and others in a few moments' time. Let's get a word on this as well with our next couple of guests as we explore what is going on in the Labour Party. Clive Lewis, of course, the MP, offered to vacate his seat. Andy Burnham says that the Prime Minister can't recover from dire polls with a disastrous budget and those local elections looming. Let's have a listen to the Manchester Mayor speaking a few months back about the issue of Labour leadership.
MPs were in touch with me, but let me also give an honest explanation of what I said to those MPs. It's not up to me. It's not my decision. That's a matter for you, for the party in Parliament. And also I said to them, and it's got to be about more than a personality contest. The Tories were just constantly going through this at the latter end of the time that they were in government. It's got to be about a plan, a proper plan for the country and a proper plan to beat reform.
Let's get a couple of voices on this. Nick Buckley first, former Manchester mayoral candidate and author. Afternoon to you, Nick.
Good afternoon.
Now, of course, we've spoken before, and I remember at the time, you went for this and thought, I'm going to give it a go. You got a fair amount of votes, though. You got tens of thousands of people turned out and put their cross next to your name.
I did. I was the only independent candidate, self-funded my campaign, and I came third. Yeah. I beat Reform, the Greens and the Lib Dems. Tories just beat me, and Andy Burnham was way ahead of everybody in the pack.
Sure. What do you make, firstly, of Mr Burnham as the mayor?
He's done nothing. He's done absolutely nothing in Greater Manchester. He promised to end rough sleeping in 3 years. He's had 8, and it's just as bad now as it was 8 years ago. He's kept his head down in Greater Manchester. Andy Burnham has always wanted to be Prime Minister, and he took the role of Mayor of Greater Manchester to get away from Corbyn in case that went crazy and went south. And then he's built his reputation in Greater Manchester, just like Boris Johnson did as the Mayor of London. And he's always wanted to come back at the right time, become Labour leader and become Prime Minister. And that's a fantastic aspiration. Yeah. I mean, good for him to want the top job. But things have gone pear-shaped recently, A, for Labour and for Keir Starmer. But his biggest hindrance now is not only that Starmer doesn't want him in Parliament because he's going to stab him in the back, but Reform UK are on the scene now, and there is no more safe seats for Labour. Andy Burnham doesn't even know if he can win a by-election. That's his big worry.
Yeah. Well, what would happen then if Clive Lewis, who we've been talking about, is talking about vague? I mean, he obviously feels very... I don't know whether Clive Lewis owes Andy Burnham some money or something, but he's being very generous. He's saying, I'll give up my entire parliamentary career. I'll stand aside so you can sit there in Norwich South and become an MP, and therefore you've got a journey to becoming Prime Minister. I mean, what's your assessment of that?
If you was Clive Lewis, wouldn't you want the Prime Minister of these United Kingdoms to owe you a massive favour? We're looking at knighthood, we're looking at being given a safe seat in a year or two, we're looking at a ministerial role once he gets us. I mean, I'd want the Prime Minister to owe me a massive favour.
So you think there's he's playing a bit of a long game here on this one,
of
Mr.
course.
Lewis. Yeah, and that wouldn't be unusual. I totally see where you're coming from on that. In terms of Andy Burnham, then, I mean, he's got what, until next May?
He has. If Andy Burnham can get to Parliament, then I would put money on him being Prime Minister and replacing Keir Starmer. That's a given. Not because Andy Burnham has better policies and a better vision and is a better politician. Andy Burnham has one thing that hardly anybody on the Labour front bench has, including the Prime Minister. He comes across as human.
I was about to say exactly that. That is his, if skill set is the right thing, in a world where we struggle to find politicians who speak or don't speak like some kind of pre-programmed robotic mechanism. He does quite well out of that. You know, working class boy from Aintree sounds accessible, right?
He does. He can think on his feet. He's obviously clever. He can speak to an audience. He doesn't need preset questions. He's a polished politician, that side of things. Yeah. But my point is this: how low have our politicians fallen that we're picking leaders of the country not based on intelligence and vision and policies and hard work? We're basing it on now, does he sound human? That's how far our politicians have fallen.
Indeed. I mean, you need a bit of that, of course, and the world we live in these days, you know, it's a multimedia, 24/7 news cycle, social media thrown in as well. You kind of got to have a bit of something. Mr. Starmer hasn't really got it. You know, Wes Streeting kind of has it in that respect. Kemi Badenoch hasn't got it. Robert Jenrick has a little bit. You know, there's all of this, but so you need some of that. But at the end of the day, no matter how much gloss you can put on it, and you can make references to watching Strictly or Traitors, and that does sell very well in a little soundbite here and there, that you understand what ordinary people do. You get rumbled quite quickly, don't you, after people soon realise you've done naff all or you've not done anywhere near what you promised.
Absolutely. So let's talk about one thing that Andy Burnham has talked about recently, to make sure he's in the news for leadership. He said to get out of our economic problem at the moment, we probably need to spend an extra 30 to 40 billion pounds of investment and borrow that money, and that'll help us get out of our financial problem. That's a very socialist answer to a very real problem. Sure. His answer is we need to go into more debt to get out of debt. He would be a disaster for the country.
Yeah. Well, we will see if Mr. Lewis buckles or moves. But in the meantime, Nick, thank you very much indeed for your time. Nick Buckley, he was a candidate at the last mayoral elections, and he came third, which was quite impressive. Gideon says, could it be the Lib Dems that actually take Clive Lewis's seat if it was vacated? Well, it might do. They didn't do so well. In fact, the Greens did come second in that seat last time around, which is what I think our previous messenger was alluding to. But it is a fairly safe Labour seat. But look at what's happened in terms of voting intentions and where people are thinking about going, whether it's the Greens doing well on the left or Reform doing well on the right. Let's speak to Neil Lawson, Director of Compass, founded as a Labour Party ideas pressure group that was democratically run by members. Neil, good afternoon to you.
Hi, Ian.
Nice to have you with us. Look, I mean, we live in interesting, almost soap opera times when it comes to politics, and it's great to have that bag of popcorn, whether it's Labour, the Tories, Reform, Green, whoever it happens to be. Never a dull day, really. How significant do you think this sort of row is between those in Labour that want Mr Starmer out, namely Clive Lewis? There are some others, and many don't publicly put their name to it. Is this something that the Labour front bench need to be seriously looking at, or will it just blow over?
No, it's not going to blow over. It's not going to blow over because the fundamentals of Labour's position are so serious. I would, the existential word is being used by everyone, and not just people who are seen to be on the left, like me or Clive Lewis, but by Andrew Marr, in the New Statesman this week, saying this could be the end of the Labour Party. It only got 34% of the vote in the last election. That polling position is now halved. It's losing council seats by astronomical numbers across the country. Yep. It lost dramatically in Caerphilly a few weeks ago, a bedrock seat. It's polling, 79% think it's got the wrong economic policy. Keir Starmer is minus 60 odd percent. These are the worst, ratings. Yeah. Ever. It's lost over half of its membership. Could be the end of the party. And every government has difficult midterm, problems. But the real issue, Ian, is that they don't have a plan to get themselves out of it. Yeah. And Starmer, everyone knows Starmer doesn't have a plan to get out of it. So it's a question of when, not if. And the whole debate in Parliament and in the media and in the lobby is about when he's going to go. Everyone knows it, and then in public people come out and say, oh no, we shouldn't be having this conversation. Yes. And they're being hypocritical because everyone knows it's got to change.
Yeah, I was talking to one Labour supporter quite recently, the last couple of days in fact, who was saying it's like the Labour Party are currently experiencing what the Tory party experienced, but after 14 years. And it does in many respects, because they've discombobulated. The Tories are kind of nowhere, and, frankly, they've only got themselves to blame for all of that. But Labour never had this honeymoon period. There was never any great moment, half an hour into his administration, Keir Starmer decided to take away winter fuel allowance and goodness knows what else. And that one announcement kind of did set a tone, I think.
It did, because Labour is supposed to be the party of fairness and social justice, and when you do something which really undermines that whole position, it's like the Tories on their claim for economic competence. Yeah. When you've lost that, rock that you sit on, then you've got all sorts of problems. But they hadn't done their homework across a whole range of issues. We're seeing it now in the NHS. We're seeing it across the piece. And there was the Institute for Government this week said, literally that they never prepared for government. So they're in a mess. And until we have a plan and someone with the leadership to meet the scale of that challenge, which might bring us back into the conversation about Andy Burnham. See, unlike your previous guest, I actually think he does have a plan. He has been thinking about this stuff. He made a speech to my conference earlier in the year that set out very clearly the basis for a new economy, how you rewire the state, how do you build trust in politics again. I think he has been thinking about this stuff, and and so that's a very good reason why he's probably, I think, the only person out of the possibilities who could meet the scale of the challenge that Labour and the country face. And that's why people like Clive Lewis and others are in favour of trying to find him a way into the leadership of the party and the country, so that he can help us meet that challenge.
I hear that, and I can understand that it's quiet with Keir Starmer. I would slightly counter it, Neil, by saying, well, it's Andy Burnham, who was Health Secretary and had a few, front bench roles. But, he's not JFK or Margaret Thatcher. It's Andy. And, for some people, they would say, well, yeah, he's not a big household name. I know that's hard, for those of us, as you would as well.
He is a big household name.
Well, he kind of is among Labour people, among people like me.
No, across the whole country.
Nobody knows who Andy Burnham is,
if they don't know who Andy Burnham is, they don't know who anyone else is, because he is the only politician in the country, the only one who polls positively. No one else does. That puts him in quite a remarkable position, doesn't it? That he's the only person that the country thinks of positively. Now, that is an amazing attribute.
Why would that? What would that be based on? Because I mean, I'm not being facetious when I say I don't think most people would know.
I think it's based
if
on...
you asked my sister who Andy Burnham is, she wouldn't have a Scooby-Doo who Andy Burnham was.
Well, she might not know who Shabana Mahmood is or Wes Streeting or anyone else. But look, if you look at his track record of he's been in the cabinet, he's gone to Manchester, he's gone through big change experiences like Hillsborough, you know, and the blood scandal. He's managed Manchester. Today, the thing he's doing is showcasing the fact that Manchester is the fastest growing place in the country, and he's trying to spread that growth out, what he's calling good growth. He's, you know, brought the buses into public ownership. He's reduced the cost of transport for people. He's trying to build houses. He's hit a ceiling of you know what you can do without the right powers. And again, as your previous guest says, he has that magic ingredient, which is authenticity. People like him because he's got the vision, but he's also got that sense of normality. You'd like to go for a drink with Andy Burnham. Now, that's a pretty winning hand. Why does the Labour Party not want the most popular person with the plan to be its next leader? That's the question that should be asked of the senior people in the Labour Party, not of Andy Burnham. Why don't you want the person that could stand up to Nigel Farage and stop us, the country, drifting into that direction?
I mean, he does. You're absolutely right. But I mentioned Wes Streeting earlier, and Wes is the kind of, you know, again, sort of has that accessibility thing. You know, he can talk, he has cultural references that people understand, he can joke about watching Celebrity Traitors, and many people, even on the right, tend to think he's, you know, not doing the best job in health because, as you rightly said, there wasn't a big enough plan to start with, but he's doing better than many other departments are. He has that, but is that, are we then in danger of just dining out on a personality?
No, and that's why I go back to, I think Wes is very good on his feet, and if you want a kind of very clever, entertaining TV host, I think Wes would be a brilliant one of that.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's got a plan. And if he's got a plan, it involves bringing in Palantir, BlackRock, you know, Oracle into the health service, and I don't think that's the answer. The most important thing is that Burnham has a plan around the economy, around the state, and around changing politics. I don't think Wes has that. I mean, I think personality, as everyone's saying, matters, but the most important thing is the plan. And Burnham has a plan that will change this country and put it back on the right track.
I mean, what sort of plan would that be, though, Neil? I mean, I've not heard of a plan. Maybe there's something in the inner circle that you're more privy to than me. I mean, I appreciate that he'd go, well, I wouldn't do what Starmer has done, but is there some, you know, deep-rooted philosophical burning furnace of ambition that he's, you know, he's had it in his back pocket, walking around with this format for years, saying, and if only I had the big job, I could do all of this. Is it that?
Well, I think, he made a speech to my organisation Compass's conference in May to about 500 people, and he set out there the fact that this is going to take turning this country round, to invest in what he talks about is the fundamentals of people's lives. So have you got, you know, an affordable, decent home? Have you got a proper kind of education and apprenticeship? Does the transport system work effectively for you? He's saying all these fundamentals of the things that made his life possible as that working class boy from Aintree. Is that, you know, can we rebuild that stuff that will change people's lives? To do it, it's going to take 10 to 15 years. In order to build the cross-party consensus for that, we're going to have to bring in things like proportional representation and change the way the state operates. We're going to have to change the culture of our politics to stop it being so yaboo. He's talked about things like getting rid of the whip system and other ideas to open our politics up and out. He's learnt that in Manchester you have to build alliances with people. You know, they've never have a vote on their council. They always kind of come to a consensus by talking. So he's learnt a different kind of politics as well as the content. And I think that kind of thing puts him in very good stead. So I think he does have a plan, he does have a vision, and he does have the personality to put all of that stuff in place.
OK, just a final question, Neil, briefly, if we can. When do you think Keir Starmer will walk the plank from number 10?
I don't know. These things are always protracted. and it must be. I feel personally it must be very difficult for the guy, because it must be becoming more and more apparent to him, and as it is to everyone around him, that he doesn't have the skills to do the job. I think he should think about what his legacy is, how there could be some kind of handover to someone else that was orderly, that wasn't some mad scramble, that he could say, look, I'll step down in the summer, but I will try and lead this ship, steering in the right direction, in the right kind of way. Obviously, it's up to the party to decide who comes next. Let's have the biggest, fullest list of candidates. But let's work out first what the job is before we decide who the personality is. Okay. That's why I go back to the plan, the plan, the plan.
The plan, the plan, and the plan. Neil, lovely to have you on. Great to speak as well. Neil Lawson is the director of Compass. That is a Labour Party, Labour Ideas pressure group. Great to speak with him. Thank you to Nick Buckley before that. Your thoughts on all of that? 0344 499 1000.
My dad working all hours, even though he's old. Bringing home pittance is not how it should be, yet all is good for those overseas. To come in and basically take everything from me, living it up, housed, warm and rich, while we struggle, you silly twit. So thank you for nothing, you silly old fool. Step down now, let someone else rule.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk. 0344 499 1000. Let's go to your calls. Tim is in Manchester. How are you doing, Tim?
I'm doing very, very well.
Good. Now, we've just heard a very glowing report of your mayor. Suggesting that, he's the bloke that not only is a great mayor and his track record is there for all to see, but he'd be an even better Prime Minister. Thoughts?
By way of background, I grew up in Manchester, moved away in the late 80s and moved back. Manchester is a transformed city in that period. The Manchester of the late 80s was a dark, dangerous place. Yep. Today it is a vibrant, great place to live. However, the risk is, the facile argument is to say Manchester is a successful city. It must be down to Burnham. Now, I'm not saying that Burnham's done a bad job. However, what I will say is all the foundations for the success of Manchester were laid a long time before he became mayor.
Yeah, that often happens, doesn't it? Like, there's a lot of things, you become the kind of incumbent right at the ideal time.
Yeah, look, he's made some good decisions, and so, for instance, the taking back control of all the bus companies, that's actually a very, very good decision. You know, the fragmented lease structure that had been given to us with public transport, breaking that down, bringing it back into centrally controlled, makes sense. The risk is this: Andy Burnham is a card-carrying, ideological socialist. There is no doubt about that. Read some of his speeches from before he became the mayor. You'll understand what I mean. He is a proper socialist, and I've got nothing against socialists, apart from one thing. Every socialist in the history of politics has done one thing, which is to challenge the axiomatic definition of stupidity. In other words, keep doing the same thing over and over again, thinking they'll get a different outcome.
Yeah, I get it. Listen, on that point, Tim, I've got to move just for time. You've been fabulous. Nice and illuminating stuff from Tim in Manchester, who knows his territory. And he did say something there that I've always thought was the case, that if you end up in office just at the right time, when the money is a little more plentiful and you're taking decisions that would probably have been taken in a similar way no matter who got into power, those kind of things. But you get the glory on that. I mean, Boris Bikes, I think, is the best example. When Boris Johnson became mayor of London, suddenly all these bikes arrived. Wow, they were even called Boris. But in fact, they're still called Boris Bikes from time to time, aren't they? And yeah, I know they're Santander bikes now, Finn, but you take my point. Colloquially, I'll take a Boris bike. But actually, I think Ken Livingstone originally had the idea for those bikes, and then he got booted out. It never happened, but and of course Boris did make it happen. But you take my point. So you can sometimes luck in on the timing. We've been talking about who might be booted out at the next election. Would Ed Miliband be one of them? And it might be down to things like this. His evangelism, perhaps. The Clean Power Plan that he's talking about is going to hike bills by about 160 quid by 2030. So even with Reeves's budget tweaks, most won't pay less long term, and Labour's massive grid and low carbon spend is still, of course, inevitably dumped on consumers. Let's speak with Chris Morrison. Regularly helps us out on these kind of stories. Environment editor at the Daily Sceptic. Afternoon to you, Chris. Who'd have thought it that Ed Miliband has crunched the numbers and they might not be looking too favourable?
Yeah, well, you're referring obviously to this report that's come out, which I've tried to read in full. No, I was kind of on the programme. In fact, it's up behind a paywall, but there's enough evidence of what it is. It's really that the person who wrote it is suggesting that these bills are going to go up. Well, that is sort of, the bleeding blind and obvious. We know that. It's just how much they're going to go up. There was a number of energy chief executives who went to the House of Commons recently and said that even if the price of gas went to zero, energy bills would still go up in the next 5 years. Such is the horror show of net zero. And this report is very much on the line of we need renewables. And it's therefore, I think, as your previous guest I was listening to earlier in the programme, Pete Barnes said that it's a rearranging the decks of the Titanic. It's not just that. The drunk is wandering around the deck trying to cheer everybody up by saying, I asked for ice, but this is ridiculous. Yes. And the band is warming up with Nearer My God to Thee. So it is the bleeding blind and obvious. The report suggests that it's really just a case of, yes, we know they're going to go up. It's fairly obvious from the figures. You only have to look at the figures, the £15 billion that are loaded onto electricity bills, on consumers' bills every year. What they're used for. We know that domestic prices are fourth highest in the world. Industrial prices are the highest. So we know that these bills are going up. And the report suggests ways of trying to sort of fudge it to, if we take it off if we put it onto general taxation here and we do this. And he's very strong on batteries, which are one of the silliest ideas around the current battery provision. If we get a Dumpflau, which is the German word, as you know, for no frigging wind for a couple of weeks in the middle of winter, the batteries will last at the moment about an hour and a half.
All right, it's not really long enough, is it? I think
not really. No. But again, they're looking desperately for ways to suggest that net zero is still the future. that, as we know, many countries in the world have said, no thanks, we've seen that, it just doesn't work.
Do you think, I mean, his overarching point on paper is really simple, you know, wind power, solar solar power, and nuclear power, which is getting a bit more of the headlines now, I've noticed, because perhaps they've realised the previous two are, you know, maybe a bit wobbly. But that seems to be, if you get all of that into place, then ultimately, maybe not by 2030, but ultimately things can only be cheaper.
Yeah, there's a problem with nuclear power. I mean, I'm not a great fan of nuclear power, but then, you know, we've had conversations before. I don't see a problem with CO2, so I don't see a problem with using gas. But that's another discussion. But there's a problem with nuclear power. There are at this moment, or there were, missiles flying over Chernobyl. You know, then you talk about national security, they'd be very easy to knock out if we were ever at war with anybody. And of course, the mess would be horrendous. They have these new modular units, which, even if they were subject to a terrorist attack, to be fair, wouldn't actually cause too much of a local problem. But nevertheless, it is nuclear power. The big problem with nuclear power is it's very, very expensive, much more expensive than gas, almost as expensive as wind if you take in all their subsidies. And it is only base load. Yeah. This is, you know, it will provide, as the French do, 40% of your base load. The load, in other words, that you know you will always use.
Of course.
But if England gets the World Cup final and at half time everybody goes to make a cup of tea, the base load shoots up. It shoots up horrendously, and balancing the grid is a very, very difficult thing. It's becoming even more difficult when you bring in all of these different types of renewable power, but it becomes very difficult. And nuclear won't do that. It won't do that. It'll be it's expensive. It's potentially dangerous, although I agree that people say it's now safer than it was. And it's just not. It's just it's another thing they put into the mix to say that we can go green. It's all, there are all these alternative ways of going green. The fact is that it's not just for energy, but for the whole of a modern industrial society. Hydrocarbons are absolutely vital. They're essential. Without it, we don't have the modern industrial society. And of course, we know from the Mad Miliband, we know that with his sort of neo-Marxist views of life, you know, wanting to control everything, he's willing to impose that on us and to actually deindustrialize the country, to ruin the country, to make us energy insecure, to outsource all of our outsource all our energy, all of our production.
Well, to tell you what, the next few years aren't going to be dull, Chris, are they? And I know we're going to speak again many times on all of this, but thank you for shining some light on Dim Ed's idea to, well, stop the dimming, but probably not. He is Chris Morrison, Environment Editor at The Daily Sceptic. Thank you to him. Over to you, 0344 499 1000.
Across the UK DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This comes from Ugly Truth, who says, yet again, you platform a paid lefty shill. Well, he's not paid, by the way. Well, he might be paid in his own job. He's not paid by us. But it is a little bit odd, Ugly, when you don't... I mean, we had someone who was anti-Burnham and then someone who was kind of pro-Burnham. So it's not about platforming somebody. That's the support base for those who like Burnham. But he goes on to say, replacing Starmer with Burnham would be like changing your shirt when you've your pants. Very true, isn't it? I absolutely... That's the best line. And I unfortunately read that tweet while I was interviewing the last guest and could hardly contain myself. Ugly, thank you very much indeed. You provided comedy towards the end there. This one comes in from Mike, who says, I only remember Burnham as Minister for Death over his handling of the hospital scandals such as Staffordshire. People don't often talk about Staffordshire. And I don't know, when we discuss areas of health that have gone wrong, I'm thinking about contaminated blood, I'm thinking about the COVID inquiry. We don't talk about... I don't know how Staffordshire is... I mean, look it up. We could do a whole show on Staffordshire. It's kind of gone off the boil. But, you know, this was an era where... an area and an authority where you had patients drinking the water in a flower vase. But I'm not even talking about the ones who died here, but water in a flower vase because of the neglect, the levels of neglect. It was utterly scandalous. And, of course, he also... Whatever our previous guest was saying about the qualities of Burnham, he was certainly in power when Labour were utilising private healthcare. I can't remember what specifically he did as Health Secretary in that respect, but he was certainly there. Gary says, Clive Lewis can see which way the wind is blowing. At best, after the next general election, it's 5 years in opposition, or at worst, it's down the job centre looking for something at the age of 58, whereas if he gives up his seat to Burnham, it's in the upper chamber for him. Yeah, that's, as our previous guest said, he's probably playing a longer game on this one. Also this afternoon, I want to look at this story. Hundreds of parents in a support group that offers parents whose children have a transgender identity somewhere to talk have accused the BBC of harming kids with a constant drip feed of one-sided pro-trans coverage. They've come together to urge Ofcom to investigate alleged failures of impartiality and safeguarding. Let's speak to Maya Fostata, Executive Director at Sex Matters, a regular with us on the programme. Maya, good afternoon to you. Nice to have you with us.
Hello.
So BBC pro-trans bias. Who'd have thought it?
Yes. I mean, we've seen the dossier on the pro-trans bias, the gender ideology that's threaded through news, entertainment and children. And now this complaint by a group of parents is showing where the real harm of that to their children, from having them from an early age being told that you can be born in the wrong body and that if you don't feel happy being a boy or a girl, well, you can change that.
I mean, it's hard to know what's going on over there at the BBC, isn't it? But I mean, this was always an area, even before we got into talking about doctoring panorama documentaries and the like, this was always an area, and I know we've talked about it before, and lots of people in this area that are concerned about the kind of drip effect of one-sided coverage in this area have regularly called out the BBC on this. I mean, there was one educational video, I'm sure you remember it. It was taken down eventually, where you had somebody lecturing kids about how there's over 100 genders and this kind of old cobblers that sort of went unchanged. Did quietly get removed a couple of years ago, that one. But this is before all the recent problems of the BBC. I think this one was already a problem.
Yes. I mean, in 2014, they broadcast a children's documentary on CBBC called I Am Leo, about a young girl who wanted to be a boy, and they included on there statements from the Tavistock, from the clinicians at the Tavistock, saying that puberty blockers are just like pressing a pause button.
Yeah.
that it's completely reversible and just a simple thing. It was advertisement really for taking puberty blockers and for the idea of having gender dysphoria. And we know children at that age, growing up is difficult. And if you don't feel confident or happy or concerned about your sexual orientation or not fitting in or autism, and then someone comes along and says, well, maybe the problem is you're born in the wrong body and we can fix that. That's very attractive to a group of children. And it was after that program that the referral rates to the Tavistock shot up, particularly of girls.
Yeah, and I was hearing somebody quoting a parent who said they knew their kid, they knew their child was trans because they liked boys' stuff and playing mechanics or something like that, which is, I mean, just the most bizarre leap of judgment on your own child. I don't know who indoctrinated that parent, but it's that kind of thinking. Oh, my daughter likes wearing, boyish clothes and climbing trees, so therefore she might be a boy. I mean, what kind of half-wit comes to that conclusion?
Well, but if the doctors tell you that it's a thing, and if the BBC tells you it's a thing, we do put our trust in these institutions. Yeah. And then when they tell you, do you want to have a dead son or a live daughter? They put the risk of suicide as if you don't allow your child to transition, they will commit suicide. That's a terrible thing to put on a parent of a child who's having mental health difficulties. It's irresponsible, and the BBC should not have done it.
Well, we talk about the BBC being a bit bonkers, which is almost adds humour to it, but it's not. But another area is Bristol Council, because they've just given the go-alight for the Green councillors to carry placards, if they want, at meetings with "Trans women are women" on them. A complaint by a former legal chief alleging intimidation and bias was rejected as political expression under the code, and around 18 Green councillors who'd previously walked out during a gender-critical questions period then turned up with placards on the 4th of November. I don't know what's wrong with these people, Mayor. I don't know whether it's an illness, whether they are just stupid, whether they're just so wedded to an ideology, or whether they're rebellious, or maybe it's a mixture of all of the above.
Who knows? I'm glad they're not my councillors. I mean, it looked like pure student politics.
Exactly
even
that.
Embarrassed about it in a university setting, but these are adults, these are councillors who are supposed to be running your bins and your parks and your schools and making serious adult decisions, sitting there with, placards. They were ripped up pieces of cardboard with slogans like "Trans women are women" on them, instead of speaking, instead of saying, this is the law that we need to follow and implement, and there are different views, there are different interests, and we're here to deal with them in a democratic way. But just waving these pieces of cardboard, it was pathetic.
Just a bit. Mayor, thank you for your time. Always appreciate that. Mayor Fostater, Executive Director at Sex Matters. And the parents in this particular group, they were called the Bayswater Support Group, and they do represent parents of kids who think they are trans, was really accusing, which is, I think is the whole Tavistock argument, the BBC of, because many of those parents were probably thinking, actually, my kid needs maybe other help. The child is claiming they are trans in a world where everyone is saying, well, if you're trans, then you're just trans. Like, if you're a boy, you're a boy, you're a girl, you're a girl. If you're trans, you're trans. As if it's kind of that simple and that sort of black and white. And the casual nature and the unquestioning nature of the way these issues were reported, and how you see some of the things Mayor was just referring to there sort of unfold. Well, you're probably, the whole issue of a girl who thinks she might be a boy, or a girl who thinks she might fancy girls. You had professionals not saying, well, that's fine, you might be gay, to a teen. You might be gay, you fancy girls. But their go-to line was, well, you might be a boy if you fancy girls. But really? I mean, you might, that was their go-to place. You might be a boy. So we've obviously got to, you know, look at that and pursue that. We think your daughter is actually a boy because she fancies girls. Well, what, she should be gay? Could she maybe be a bit bi? Could that be the issue here? No, probably a boy. Well, probably not a boy, I think would be the obvious answer, even if you weren't a clinician. That would probably be your first port of call. But some of these people were so invested in the idea because it mucked up the system, you know, and there's nothing more than a demented lefty loves best than messing with the system, convention, tradition, all of those things. They're in their happiest place when they throw things in the air and create some chaos. And this clearly creates some chaos. 0344 499 1000. Our lines are well and truly open. All of these issues. Andy Burnham's there as well. Foreign nationals in entitlement to benefits. Anything else you want to throw in? This is Talk.
There is a seismic shift. There's no sign whatever of it abating. It's actually growing. And, you know, in the past, people have thought, well, it's okay. You know, if they had a Labour government doing badly, they would think, well, it's okay. You know, the Tories will come along and put it right. And if they had a Tory government that was doing badly, they thought, oh, Labour will come along and put it right. But now they know of their own experience in recent years, neither party is going to put it right. And they're looking for an alternative.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This from Amanda, who says, Ian, has no one these days heard of tomboys? Yes, exactly that. I've seen so many girls who loved to play in the mud with boys growing up, to be something of remembrance. It's shameful how this country has been let down by those who should know better. And that comes up a fair bit, and thank you, Amanda, for that. It's true. You could just be a bit of a tomboy, and you could be an effeminate male as well, which doesn't necessarily mean you're gay, and it certainly doesn't mean you're a girl. You're really a girl because you're an effeminate male, and you know, that is, you know, some blokes are effeminate. And so what? You know, that's it. They're not secretly women. Oh, dear. 0344 499 1000. We're going to go to Chris and Philip in just a second. We have the Voice of Doom. It's day 7, I think, of the Voice of... Day 7 of the Voice of Doom. It is a bit of a stinker, this one. It's the mystery voice, but it's political. Who is this?
Rightly and properly.
That's Wellard, that one. Here it is again.
rightly and properly.
87222. Message 87222. If you think you know, remember, politician you're looking for, young, old, dead or alive, white, white, black, brown, left or right was what I was going to say. Any of those, I'm not going to tell you, no clues. It's a straightforward question. Who is this?
Rightly and properly.
Don't say that again.
Rightly and properly.
Yeah, all right. Rightly or properly?
Rightly and properly.
Rightly and properly. OK, thank you very much indeed. You can go now. Appreciate you coming in just to do that every day. It's brilliant. That's dedication from our political classes. Who is that, though? That's the question. 87222, if you think you know. And if we get a right answer, we'll reveal it after the news at 3. Back to your calls. Chris is in Bournemouth on that immigration question. Chris, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Ian.
Nice to have you with us. What are you thinking?
This immigration thing is one of the subjects that really makes my blood boil. It really does. As regards the healthcare service, these people should be made to actually sort of be made to prove that they can pay for the treatment that they're going to get.
You would think so.
And the NHS should be for British citizens only.
What, when you say British citizens only, what if you're a foreign national but you've been here for 40 years and you work here, you pay your taxes here?
Well, therefore you should be allowed to the NHS. But if you're one of these people that come in on a boat,
yeah,
you should be made to pay for your treatment. It's as simple as that. No wonder the NHS is in the state that it's in at the moment.
Would you let...
It's because they're putting these...
OK, I was just going to say, on the back of that, Chris, because this is another argument, but would you let migrants that come over the channel work?
No. Not until we've got our own population in work and earning.
Yeah. And
you see, I used to be a lorry driver, Ian, and I used to do a lot of continental work 20-odd years ago. And I used to do a lot of Spain. In Spain, I tried to apply for a job in Spain. And I was told by previous employers that over there, until we can employ our own population, you've got no chance. And it should be the same in this country.
But, of course, you know, immigration isn't just exclusive to this country, Chris, as you know. It's all over the place. France have got a heck of a problem. Germany have as well. Spain too. They're all trying to deal with it. Some say if you get migrants working, then they can start paying for stuff. True or false?
True, Ian, but our own population should come first before a migrant that come here on a boat with no papers.
Yeah. OK, on that point, Chris, thank you very much indeed. Let's talk about Andy Burnham. Philip in Somerset. What have you got for us, Philip? Afternoon.
Andrew Burnham was a previous health secretary.
Yep.
And also his record, particularly not good, and the bureaucracy, and as the previous health speaker said, a lot of people coming in, getting health and operations for having their children, etc., etc. Also, there are some queries about Andrew Burnham with holidays and contracts for Manchester, building contracts, I believe. And he won't be the saviour of the Labour Party. This person now who's going to resign and cause an election, he may not even get elected. Depends on the common sense of the people for that particular constituency.
Yeah, that's very true. There's a few hurdles to go through before you could comfortably say that he's the Prime Minister. And then, of course, you've got to, before he becomes an MP, and then you've got the whole process of leadership challenges.
You have got the process of leadership challenges, and also there's a lot of backstabbing within the Labour Party. Yeah. I'm not in any political party, so I've got to, and I'm a 78-year-old. I've seen a lot better times in this country.
And I think that is shared by many others as well. Thank you, Philip, for that. Kaz says, I'm still a tomboy. Nobody else seems to have a problem with it, says Kaz, or Graham, as she's known to her friends. This one comes in from Gary. Please tell your speaker Andy Burnham is as much of a useless as Keir Harbour. And I would most definitely not want to go for a drink with him. Yeah, because previous commentator said, you know, he's the kind of guy you want to go for a drink with. Sean in Bridlington says, I don't like Andy Burnham and I don't want to go for a drink with him either. So there you go. Not everybody wants to go for a pint with Andy Burnham. I have met Andy Burnham once. I'll tell you when I met Andy Burnham. It was the night of the Brexit vote. I was in Manchester. We were covering it live. So they were there when it came through that the UK was leaving the EU. And I previously bumped into him, that's right, at a police conference that I was hosting, and Burnham gave a speech. And then I saw him a couple of weeks later at this. The thing is, it was in the main council building, name escapes me, in Manchester. And I had a brief chat with him then. And was he mayor then? Wouldn't have been, would he? 2016. Was he just about to become mayor? No, he wasn't. He definitely wasn't mayor of Manchester then, because he became mayor in 2017. So it was just before that, when he was kind of all the mood music. Accessible character, but, you know, so many of these characters, you know, that you stop and have a quick chin wag to in my job, always seem rather pleasant. Often, when I used to work at Westminster, I always thought the really strange part about this world is that the people that you think are going to be the worst politicians, the ones you really don't like, you'd seen them on the telly for years, you think, I just cannot stand them. But they usually turn out to be the nice guys, and the ones you thought were the nice guys turned out to be the horror shows. Chris is in Hereford on Andy Burnham. We've not got long, Chris, but I'm sure you can do it. What do you make of him?
Well, it's a bad idea, to be honest. I'd rather keep Keir Starmer in power than that idiot, to be honest.
Why would that be? Many people think Burnham could win an election easier than Starmer.
Well, I don't think so, to be honest.
Okay.
The only person I would sort of be there is basically, I know she was fired or she resigned over expensive, is Angela Rayner.
Would you like to see that, or are you thinking of it through the eyes of a lefty?
Well, to be honest, I know I don't agree with that on most of her policies, and she does bumble, but she is a good speaker, and she sort of.
Well, I tell you what, if there was a leadership challenge, you're absolutely right, Chris. If there was a leadership challenge, her name would be on the ticket, and she would do rather well, despite her dalliances with stamp duty. Chris, thank you very much indeed for that. More from you on the way, 0344 499 1000. Voice of Doom, who is this?
Rightly and properly.
If you think you know, 87222. Hopefully we get a right answer. Let's get the news now at 3 o'clock.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Yeah, welcome back. It is the home of common sense. This is Talk. We're talking about immigration, foreign nationals, benefits, and all that goes with it. Now, it's a fairly complex old picture, this one. There's a big old pie chart of division on this. There are foreign nationals who live and work here, pay their taxes, have done for years, have kids here, and, of course, they would be entitled to NHS care and universal credit, whatever the case was. But there are other groups in this, and we're reading today that nearly 500 migrants a day are signing up for benefits like universal credit. I mean, the numbers are eye-watering on this. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood, of course, announcing today big changes in this area. How much support will that get across the benches of the Labour Party? Also, Andy Burnham is on our radar. He's refused to rule out challenging Keir Starmer. Boy, does he want this job. He really wants this job. And it's almost no good him getting the job, is it, in 2030? Because he wants the job now, so he can be the Prime Minister now. Because in 2030, he'll just be the leader of the opposition, at best. More on that, and Ed Miliband's Clean Power Plan will add 150 quid to annual electricity bills, meaning by the end of the decade, consumers will be paying £264 more a year in green levies to decarbonise the grid. Some argue against that and go, no, 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 it's going to save our lives. What the hell are you talking about? Because wind and solar and nuclear will mean that things are cheaper and greener as we move forward. Your response on that as well. 0344 499 1000. Dan in Kent says, does it really matter if Starmer did step down? If the likes of Burnham, Miliband or Rayner became Prime Minister, unless any government cuts welfare, the misery continues. The backbench is the stumbling block. Spot on. I mean, it really is. Don in Chelmsford, Andy Burnham's manicured eyebrows deserve a national stage. That alone should secure the post of Prime Minister. We're not voting for him, we're voting for his eyebrows. John Ross says, when I was starting out, a pint cost 50 new pence. I could get rubber on a fiver. Rubber? On a fiver with change. Oh, rubbered on a fiver with change for the chippy. It was around £30,000 a year for a new house, but getting a mortgage was not easy. If house prices rose in line with beer alone, today's house prices would be worth around £350,000. Nothing like the £30,000 back then. It's a very good point. And Paul says, Andy Burnham is the answer. If Andy Burnham is the answer, then the question is one that is not suitable for polite company. I think I read that earlier, but no reason to not give it another airing. Let's move to this story, and one that, of course, should concern many of you. A review has found that Britain isn't ready for war, even as Defence Secretary John Healey unveils a £1.5 billion for 13 new UK missions factories to ramp up industry amid rising threats. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is reported to back a secret US-Russia deal, pushing Ukraine to lease parts of its territory to Moscow. What does all of this mean? Let's get a word from Lisa Hazeldine, online commissioning editor for Foreign Affairs at The Spectator. Lisa, good afternoon to you.
Hi, good afternoon, Ian. Thank you for having me.
It's nice to speak again. As far as I can work out, we haven't been war ready, if that's the case, for a number of years now. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's very fair to say. There was a report that came out yesterday that was published by the Defence Select Committee, which said that basically Britain has fallen woefully behind in terms of preparing any sort of response, sort of from a military perspective in terms of sort of how ready our troops are and what equipment we have, but also in terms of communicating with the public about what sort of future threats might be coming down the road for Britain, and basically sort of almost, sort of laying the groundwork for that scenario with the public.
I mean, this is... We often hear people talk about, well, actually, the real threat will be in technology, because that will become the obvious area for disrupting and literally scuppering governments. You might cut a wire under the sea, which would probably turn off your internet connection. That's not good either. But there is still clearly a need for, physical possibilities for war, right? And hence munitions factories and other areas of military hardware still being important.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been having sort of an increasing number of warnings from intelligence services, both here in the UK, but also predominantly on the continent, sort of the German intelligence services, some of the Baltic states as well, essentially saying that we have to be prepared for a possibility that Putin in 3, 4, 5 years' time could look to attack one of the NATO states. Now, of course, NATO has something called Article 5, which is basically sort of a Three Musketeers clause, one for all and all for one, which would basically necessitate Britain to potentially send troops to help defend those territories, as an example, let alone, of course, sort of drone warfare and other sort of technology that might bring a war closer to home in Britain.
Let's talk about this other story as well, Lisa, that Donald Trump... It's hard to keep track with Trump, isn't it? Because one minute he hates Putin, can't stand him, he's let me down, that guy, it was a beautiful letdown, but he let me down. You get that, and then other times, he's with Zelensky, and then, of course, he's ripping him apart in the Oval Office. It's very hard to know where his kind of loyalties are, but we understand there's been a kind of US-Russian deal of some kind, which could push Ukraine to kind of roll over a bit on whatever the status of those talks are.
Yeah, and you're right, Ian. It's a big roller coaster, sort of trying to keep track of how Trump is feeling about the Ukraine-Russia war at any one moment. But yes, essentially, we have been reports are suggesting that a member of Trump's team and a member of Putin's team in the Kremlin have been working behind the scenes to create essentially a 28-point peace plan, as it were, for Ukraine. From the detail that we do know about it, it seems to essentially mirror a lot of the quite maximalist, hardcore demands that Putin has been making for sort of bringing an end to his invasion of Ukraine from the very beginning. So at this point, it's really hard to see how Ukraine would actually benefit from what has been put on the table.
Indeed. Lisa, thank you for your time. Lisa Hazeldine, online commissioning editor, Foreign Affairs over there at The Spectator. I don't know where Trump is going with the whole Ukraine thing. Is there some sort of stalemate
here? Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
They're talking about issues around leasing parts of the territory to Moscow. That is kind of a bit weird in itself. I don't know whether Zelensky would run with that. Maybe he'd be forced to run with that. He's all over the place. He's in the Oval Office, then he's over there. He was meeting, I think it was with the French, was it this week, last couple of days? Lost track of time this week. 03444991000. Trump's got the whole Epstein thing going on in his head as well. And that's interesting, the Epstein. There didn't need to be any voting in Congress or the Senate in order for Trump to release those files. He has a position as president to just release them. Which rather throws up the obvious question as to why there was this big delay. And I know that he couldn't really face the idea of a kind of rebellion from Republicans, and Marjorie and others were getting very animated, understandably, about this, because he was quite unequivocal, I'll release this stuff. Now he's saying, I will release it. I don't know what it's going to show. I mean, there are all sorts of little tittle-tattle and various rumours of people that are mentioned. Being mentioned in an Epstein file does not mean you're a paedophile, by the way. It doesn't mean that you are somehow active in malfeasance and, horrendous sexual proclivities and activity with minors. You might be mentioned for a whole number of reasons. You might be mentioned because you met him. Let's remember, he's sort of aiming at Clinton a little bit on this as well, isn't he? Clinton's all over this. Anyone that was anyone in society, particularly those in sort of presidential circles or wannabe presidents, they all knew Jeffrey Epstein, right? So being referenced or photographed with him, whether you're Trump or Clinton, and both of them on multiple occasions have been photographed with him, is not really relevant in many respects. What is relevant, if you were still bosom buddies after you knew he was up to no good, that's where it becomes a little bit tricky. If you're a die-hard Trump fan, then most people will be entirely relaxed with whatever reason Mr. Trump might give. But I think it's true that Trump's not accused of anything. And I think I'm taking him at his word here, but I've not seen any proof to the contrary that he kind of cut off his friendship way before he wanted to be or stood for president, and certainly way before any of this stuff came out. Did he know about it? I mean, yeah, he was apparently there when Virginia Giuffre or others were seen, but did he know that it was something more than it, as it transpired, turned out to be something more industrial scale when it turns out when it came out what Epstein was up to? How much did he know? Did Clinton know? I don't know. Are they pretty much in the same place on this one? We'll talk about this, I'm sure, in the coming days. Let's go back to your calls. On that issue of defence, this is David in Exeter, a territory you know well, David. What are you making of all of this?
Yeah, I keep seeing a lot of sort of chatter in the traffic of UK news and reporting about timescales to be going to war with Russia.
Yeah.
Of 3, 4, 5 years, i.e., in some sort of 2, 3, 4 year period. That is complete and utter nonsense. As far as this is concerned, the experts, General Sir Richard Barrons and co, and the senior officers are saying that we are suffering currently everything bar the shooting. So the shooting is the next bit. And if you think of that report that's just come out yesterday about we're not ready for war, well, that's been like that for 10 years or more, where everybody's asleep at the wheel.
Yeah, I did mention that to our last guest. I've lost count of how many times we've spoken about, we're not ready for war.
Well, that's been the case since at least 2018.
Does that mean we're not ready on our own for war, or does it mean we're not even ready as part of an alliance?
Well, I think collectively you've got to look at the way it's all stitched together in Europe. We're in defence partnerships with France, Germany. There's an E3 partnership, Britain, Germany, France, and then there's an E5, and then there's an E12. So the European nations are sort of wanting to run collective defence. Yeah. But if you look just at what's happening with Poland and Germany at the moment. Poland are going on to a war footing, no ifs, no buts. Now, that being so, Merz in Germany is now saying he wants to muster the biggest army in Europe, and they're going for conscription, right? So, cards on the table, writings on the wall. What will happen as a matter of just because of the way that the defence partnerships work is that we will have to truck and trailer, and we will have to do likewise. Yeah. But just going on to the sort of, the point about, being ready for war, really, Ian, it could be, 2 or 3 hours, 2 or 3 days, sure. 2 or 3 weeks, 2 or 3 months. Let me assure you, it is not 2 or 3 years. That is bunkum.
Is there going to be are we going to get an announcement at some point, can you see, David, where we're going to have the troops are getting ready to go and fight?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest issue we've got... Now, all the old guard academic defence advisors that I liaise with and the senior officers that are mostly pre-Blair military officers are all saying we should have gone onto a war footing a couple of years ago. And the story is that the political part of our constitutional monarchy, the leaders like Rishi Sunak and whatnot, did not want to be a wartime leader. I understand. Neither does Keir Starmer. Sure. So, this is why we're getting all this fuss about him coming or going and leadership contenders and all the rest of it. It's because, does he really want to stand up and be a wartime leader? Sure. This is the reality, because the next phase, once we go past the phase we're in now, literally is the shooting.
Where would that be? Where are you imagining there might be a war?
Frame it correctly. We're already, Russia is already at war with us, right, and Europe. So the story is our own politicians are not being honest with the public and saying, look, this is the case, and taking us to a war footing. Yeah. So they're kind of ginger about it. Trust me, I've seen a meeting full of these people where they were like, we can't tell the British public the truth. Well, they're going to have to sooner or later, because once the shooting starts, right, and, who knows, that could be this afternoon, tomorrow, next week, next month, whatever. But that's the next stage, because all the other stages are already at full throttle.
Yeah, good point. Listen, David, on that good point, thank you. Informative stuff from David in Exeter, who knows the territory well that we're discussing. Let's go back to the issue of Labour. Gordon is in Sutton. What have you got for us, Gordon? Afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Ian. Thanks for taking the call.
Pleasure.
Yeah, it's just about Mr. Burnham. I used to drink in the same pub as him.
Did you?
Yeah, the church in a little village called Culture, just outside Warrington.
Was he always up for a bit of karaoke and a bag of pork scratchings?
No, it was always a Sunday when he used to come in. He used to do a meat raffle for a quid.
Okay.
Right. And he isn't that bright now, honestly. He is not that bright.
Yeah.
and he covers up his real hard socialist tendencies very well.
So when you were in the when you were in the same pub as him, was he in politics at that point?
He was just, I believe, he was just about to be voted in as his first MP's job.
Okay.
This would be, I guess, early to mid-90s.
Yeah.
I think he was the MP for Lee in Lancashire originally.
So your belief is that he's a proper die-hard socialist lefty?
Yeah, absolutely. He just covers it up well. I mean, he's ideological. I mean, you can talk to some people in the pub, and my politics are a bit to the right of Attila the Hun. And so
You're not alone.
I used to listen to I used to listen to him, and I'm thinking, really? And just the rhetoric, and I'm convinced he's not changed. It's still there under the surface. Yeah. It's just hidden well.
Hidden well. Listen, I think a lot of people are sensing that. Gordon, thank you for the warning as well from Gordon in Sutton. Great call. This from Joanna in Salisbury says, Starmer is the worst, but can you guarantee anything else is going to be a whole lot? You can guarantee anything else will be a whole lot worse. I'll get rid of my TV if it's Ed Miliband. Every time I see him talk, his mouth reminds me of Wallace from Wallace and Gromit. That's very true. As she says, once you see it, you can't unsee it. I'm absolutely convinced that Ed Miliband is made of plasticine. I've thought it for a long time. I don't think it's ever been medically confirmed. I know that the people behind the whole Wallace and Gromit thing, Nick, his name escapes me, him and others, have possibly met with it. Miliband, that's all I'm saying. Don't want to start a rumour. The plasticine properties of our Ed. 0344 499 1000.
In terms of your question around taxes, there are no additional tax rises needed beyond the ones that I've set out.
Don't need to increase taxes.
I'm not coming back with more borrowing or more taxes. I will not increase your national insurance. I will not increase your VAT, and I will not increase your income tax.
We don't need to come back for more. We've done that now. We've wiped the slate clean.
The economic circumstances have declined, deteriorated since a year ago. We are having to look at taxes and spending.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
We didn't do the voice of doom, did we? Should we do the voice of doom? Have we got a winner for the voice of doom? Let me just remind you of the voice we played you.
Rightly and properly.
Who is that? These are some of the guesses. Jonathan Gullis, obviously not. Cressida Dick, definitely not. Jeremy Thorpe, no. Somebody's guessing. Can we hear the voice again, Sam?
Rightly and properly.
Could that be Angela Rayner? Somebody is guessing. No. Geoffrey Howe, Mims Davis. Don't know who Mims Davis is. Enoch Powell, it is not. Edward Short, no. Ted Heath, no. Norman Lamont, no. Charlie Faulkner, no. In fact, we haven't got a winner. It rolls over to tomorrow for day 8. I can hardly contain myself. Tony is in Lancashire. Tony, what are you thinking? Hi.
Good afternoon, Ian.
Afternoon to you. That's all right. What are you thinking?
This, what Mahmood's doing with bloody migration, what a lot of rubbish.
You're not believing it?
2 words. Go on, sorry.
I said you're not believing it.
Yeah, she's just kicking the can down the road, that's all. What about the 2 words? Detain and deport. You know, we're already skint already. 500 migrants claiming universal credit a day. God knows. And yet another thing with NHS, no wonder this country's in a blooming mess.
Yeah.
Like, if I were to go to abroad, I'm going to get travel insurance. But yet we've got all these coming into this country, using our NHS, while we're bloody paying for it. Gets up my left nostril, it does. It does. And another thing, what happens if we go to war with Russia? There were a few months ago, what pointed it out on this talk show, where say we're to go to war with Russia, what happens to all these illegals? You know, do they have to get detained anyway and deported before we go into war with someone?
I don't know.
At the end of the day, we don't know we're going to be fighting end of the day.
Well, that's a very good
God
point.
knows.
What if we're fighting Vladimir Putin, Tony?
Say that again, sorry.
What if we're fighting Putin?
Well, it's unbelievable, especially with that boat with lasers, and yet we've got the threat from China. Oh, this incompetent Fleming government, they haven't got a clue what they're doing.
They haven't got a clue anywhere, I don't think. Listen, Tony, you've been brilliant. We're going to put you down as caller of the week as well. Thank you, Tony in Lancashire. Right up his left nostril it gets. I think we can all understand the frustration that many people are feeling right now, although Trevor in Derbyshire says, I'd rather have a bacon butty with Ed Miliband than a pint with flip-flop Burnham. Yeah, I think that's fair. That would be the most entertaining. What a horrible choice. Reg says he would be interested to find out how many billions more of taxpayers' money Miliband is going to salt away before they pull him out of office, screaming and shouting. He certainly set a mission for this, hasn't he, Miliband, and he wasn't even able to go the kind of Chinese route where China are doing like loads and more than anywhere else in the world on solar and wind, but they haven't cut off their nose to spite their face. They are still excavating and fueling their nation in ways they always have done. Fossil fuels have not been eliminated. They'll let it play out till its natural conclusion, and they'll have an oven-ready system in the background. So they're not going, look, we're doing this sensibly. And who would have thought that the Russians would be, the Chinese would be doing something sensibly in this case, but they've just realised that economically they're not going to shoot themselves in the foot. I don't think that's a bad position to be in. What have you got for us, Lenny? Good afternoon.
Ian, sorry, mate.
That's all right. Did you have a meeting?
No, I'm not.
You've been called from the boardroom, Lenny.
No. I'm not too good at the moment. But
okay.
Anyway.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Yeah. Well, what it is, I've been listening to the debates.
Yeah.
And with the Labour Party, they've got one big problem.
Go on.
and that is, and I truly believe this, if you justify a lie, you are as bad as the liar.
Mm-hmm.
And all the lies that that Starmer and the Labour Party have been telling, everybody's been justifying them, and it's very difficult to find one who you can trust.
Is there one out there? When you look at the Labour government, Lenny, and that front bench is dripping with heady incompetence, as we know, but is there one of them that you look at and go, they're all right?
Well, if you try and find one that's doing a good job.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at the Tories left this country not fit for purpose.
Sure.
And that was why they got the result they did. Now, there was so much room for improvement, you know, that they've had 15 months or 18 months now to show some improvement in our country somewhere.
Fair point.
And there's none.
There's certainly, I mean, I can't point to it, and I'm not just being party political here or, you know, the great British sport of having a pop at the government of the day, but it's very hard to say, wow, look, here's a big fat list of all these amazing achievements. I was talking to somebody who works in property, and they were saying that actually behind the scenes, in terms of house building, there's a lot going on. They didn't really embroider on it, but they said there's a lot going on, more than anyone really knows, but it's getting kind of, if you like, lost with all the bad things that are going on. Now, I don't know how true that is, but we should by now, Lenny, shouldn't we be at least able to come up with even if we don't support them, say, well, at least they've done this, but we can't even say that.
Yeah, if you look at, Starmer made so many promises pre-election. Can you find one that he's kept?
Yeah.
And that is it, you know, and they're all justifying the lies, and you can't look at one of them and say, this one is honest.
That is the problem. Yeah, and that's the bit that's gone, isn't it? And it's gone, I mean, in fairness, not just the Labour Party, but you know, you want that sense that maybe we're all too cynical now. Do we overanalyze stuff? Has social media sort of blown out kind of context or sanity from civil conversation in a way, because it's this big booming, you know, he thinks, she thinks kind of chamber of doom? Has it recalibrated our view, falsely recalibrated our view of politicians? Because we shouldn't, you know, even if we don't like them, we shouldn't think they're dishonest, right? We should at least go, well, you know, I wouldn't vote for that person, but they have some integrity.
Well, can I give you, which I believe would repair the country?
Go on.
To repair the dispatch box. The dispatch box and the speaker are not fit for purpose. Now, Starmer was asked a straightforward question by Anderson yesterday in the Reform chat.
Yep, Lee Anderson.
And he didn't. It was like his reply was like the difference between football and cricket. It had nothing matching the two.
Yeah, there was no relevance to the question.
No relevance. Now, unless the Speaker, which it's got to be, the Speaker is not fit for purpose for allowing that to happen.
Yeah, the Speaker has to step in and say, I'm sorry, Prime Minister, you really didn't answer that question. And we've seen it happen. It's not just Starmer. We've seen it happen with all of them over recent years. And, yeah, you can filibuster a bit and, you know, obviously you want to dodge or avoid an uncomfortable truth because you're defending your side. But there's got to be a point when it's not unreasonable to request that the leader of the day or whoever's just standing, as you rightly say, Lenny, at the dispatch box, gives some semblance of a straight answer. Not too much to ask. Lenny, thank you very much indeed for that. 0344 499 1000. This is Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is indeed Talk. Just gone 3:30. Look who's nipped in to say hello. It's Sean Keach, Head of Science and Technology, over there at the Sun. Good to see you, Sean.
Thanks for having me, as always.
It's lovely to have you on. Lots of stories to look through here. Let's start with a gaming story, because, of course, this is, you know, for some, for kids, this is why the 21st century is the best time to be alive. For parents, and I speak as one of them, it is the worst time, because trying to work out gaming and what you can do and finding the labyrinthine world of parental controls, I mean, that stuff should just be so easy these days, and it's not. It's really tricky.
It would help if the kids just picked one game to play as well, but there are so many games out there. It's you know, it's difficult for parents to keep track.
The first story does pick on something that my kids certainly like, particularly my older one, Roblox. Now, for those who don't know what Roblox is, I will kind of loosely describe it as sort of an umbrella title for lots of games. In fact, when I say lots, we are talking, how many? It says like over 1 million games or something. I mean, it's ridiculous. It is. So it's kind of a holding pen for lots of designers and gamers, and that's what they do. Some of them some go by the wayside, some of them take off, and if you're a fan of Steel of Brain Rot, as my kids are, then that's one of the ones that took off.
And it is a brilliant game, you're right, because kids can make their own games inside the game, so it's, you know, it's quite good for creativity. But obviously, you know, if you put a lot of kids on the internet in one place, you're going to attract the wrong sort of attention as well. And so Roblox has made this change this week that they're going to start rolling out over the next few months, where they're basically going to be age checking everyone. So if you want to use any chat feature on the platform, you're going to have to go through this age check, which is going to be a facial scan estimation, which they're pretty convinced will work fairly effectively. And then it's going to put you in certain groups. So it'll be like 9 to 12, 12 to 13, you know, it's sort of like age brackets, and then you'll only be able to chat with people in your age bracket. So if you're older than 21, you'll be able to talk to anyone older than 21, but it'll basically lump kids together so that they can't talk to adults.
So it's a face scan for the kid?
Yes, for anyone using the app that wants to have chat features enabled. So if you want to use Roblox without chat, that's fine. You don't need to do an age scan, but if you want to chat with people, you're going to have to go through one of these checks. And they're saying it's quite private. The photo will be deleted straight away, so it's not like you're handing Roblox your information. They're using this system called Persona. I mean, we've seen lots of apps do this sort of face scanning technology, but it's going to estimate their age and make sure that they're not talking to, you know, an 18-year-old or a 17-year-old when they're 13, so.
Well, yeah, there seems to be a lot of this as well. I was just looking for an email. This was an Xbox one that came through yesterday. We are committed to providing players with safe and secure experiences, blah, blah, blah. As part of our compliance programme for the UK Online Safety Act and our ongoing investments in tools and technologies that help ensure age-appropriate experiences, we need you to verify your age so you can continue enjoying social features. Is this, so this is obviously...
Yeah, same thing. I've had about 3 of those emails from Xbox, so I really do need to do it. But yeah, so lots of companies doing this. It's tied to the Online Safety Act. So you're going to see, you'll be getting a lot more of these emails from different services as they work out what they need to do to try and
I think it wants me to verify my age for my son.
Oh, quite possibly. I suppose if you're the registered
account holder... See what I mean?
holder.
Make it straightforward, Xbox, Microsoft, any of you guys. Just do it, you know, it should be a toggle. It should be really easy.
It is. It's difficult.
It's a bit like trying to... I mean, you know, if you ever want some fun, Sean, I challenge you to get rid of YouTube from your phone.
Oh, God.
Give it a go.
Certainly if you use an Android phone, it'll be especially difficult.
I mean, you can get rid of it, by the way. You can delete it from the App Store. But if your kid is playing on your phone, they will just go to the App Store and re-download it.
Yeah, or they'll just go to the web version. Or the web version on lots of different devices.
That was exactly what happened. It took us ages to discover this one. It's like, how is he on YouTube again? What's he doing on YouTube?
I genuinely think that there is no way to block a child from doing something that they want to do on the internet. If they set their mind to it, they will find a way, no matter what a tech company does or what a parent does.
But you would think by now we are talking about AI when Apple or Samsung, whoever, bring out a new phone, whether Apple or Android bring out a new phone, that there would be... It would be the easiest thing in the world to go to a phone and say, if I toggle that switch there now, nothing of the ones I've selected can ever be put back on it until I untoggle it.
That would be lovely. But
Why
alas,
why is that not a thing? It's so easy to do that.
I think they are getting closer, and new parental controls get added all the time. But you're still right that there isn't a universal system, and I just don't think there ever will be a universal system, because you're trying to wrangle people who are making hardware like Apple and Samsung and Google, people who are making software, people making games, and it's not like they're all based in the UK and we can regulate them very easily. They're all based in different countries. Some of them are Americans, some of them are Chinese, and so it's just very difficult to do this. It's a global effort. We're getting closer, but I don't know if that'll ever happen truly.
Let's move to this story, Sean. I feel quite strongly about this because I saw a video online yesterday, and it was obviously filmed by somebody on safari in Africa, and they're going in a kind of jeep, one of those touristy jeeps, so there's a few people on there, and there's a lion that's kind of behind the jeep, and it's following the jeep, and a woman is filming the lion, and then the lion catches up, grabs the woman, pulls her out of the jeep, and presumably eats her for dinner.
That's not good.
It's not good, and thankfully it wasn't real, of course. It's just one of shed loads of these, I mean, very impressive AI things. Are we all getting a bit fed up with this stuff now because it's happening all the time? TikTok think they might have found a solution.
I'm certainly getting fed up with it. Not even just for the fake news information and getting stressed about whether something's real. I just think it's a bit rubbish to see all this stuff in your feed. It clogs up your feed. I think you want to see humans when you log onto the internet, not AI rubbish. And so TikTok is basically introducing this system. It's going to come out in a couple of weeks where you basically have a slider. If you want to see less AI stuff in your feed, you can just slide it to the left and it'll pull it out. Because at the moment there are a couple of workarounds. You could say, well, I don't want to see stuff tagged with AI, but that doesn't really work because not everyone would tag their stuff with AI.
True.
So this slider should resolve it. And then they're also putting in this system where they add basically an invisible watermark to AI content, so that even if it's taken down and then re-edited and re-uploaded, that watermark will persist. You can't see it as a user, but it'll let TikTok see it, and then they can flag this is AI content, and then it knows to remove it if you've dragged this slider. And also you'll be able to see if it's been not only created by AI, but also edited with AI, so it'll tick both boxes.
Got it. And they just seem to be a propensity of sort of these animal things. In the last day, I saw the lion grab the woman. I saw a tiger in India who came in somebody's driveway while a guy was sleeping with his dog, and that all ended in carnage. I saw a moose push a polar bear off a cliff, and all this stuff is incredibly impressive. But I'm a bit bored with it.
This is the thing: it's impressive for the first 6 times you see it, and you're like, wow, this is really amazing. And then
this is on X,
then you tire of it. And I think it's probably a bit of an indictment of the AI world, because I think we're going to see this issue of these AI companies probably struggling to monetize it, because I think we're all amazed by it now for the novelty. But I think everyone's getting a bit bored of just seeing AI rubbish and wants to return to proper telly again.
Having said that, though, Sean, every now and again you look in the comments on these things. So if you see it on X, and there are people that clearly believe it.
Oh, Facebook is the worst for this. If you go on Facebook, the comments on AI stuff, it's, wow, this is amazing. Amazing footage.
Yeah, I cannot believe. Oh, my goodness. Look, President Trump met this, kid, went to a hospital. Nobody knew he'd gone there. And he went there, and but the hospital was in, Margate or something.
It's very gracious of Trump.
He turned up unannounced. There was no fanfare, and he just walked in, and there's a nice photograph and some imagery of Mr. Trump walking in the hospital. No big security around it. Nothing on the news. Shows what a nice man he is. But he wasn't there. In fact, he hates Margate. He used to go there as a kid, apparently.
And this is the problem, though, is it's not like he even rode in on a lion. It's difficult once it starts to get close to reality. And I think we're going to have a big push for digital literacy, getting people to be aware of what is fake and what isn't, and knowing the signs.
Do you know what's really disappointing? When somebody makes a sort of politically satirical video, as they used to with, you'd have Starmer and Rachel Reeves, doing a cover version of, I don't know, a Scissor Sisters song or something, and the lyrics have changed to reflect the news story. And it wasn't that long ago that was done by, a couple of good tech dudes sitting and spending hours editing this thing. Now it's done in about half an hour with the right kit.
And it can get their voices as well.
And the
voices perfectly.
So it's kind of like even that's becoming a bit boring because there's so much of that as well.
Yeah, I think we're going to see. I mean, this is TikTok is interested in keeping people on its feeds.
Yeah.
And it's obviously seen that people are getting a bit tired of this AI and want to remove it. So, you know, this slider, I think, is clearly a sign that people are going that way of we want to see less AI.
Okay.
Or you can ramp it up if you want. The slider can go the other way if you want to see more, but I don't know who will be doing
stuff
that.
It didn't happen, basically. Not really, only on your screen and in your imagination. We'll talk about Netflix in a second. There might be some freebies on the way. Stand by for that. Cloudflare. A lot of people will not be familiar with Cloudflare. In fact, I don't think I was until I tried to look at something via Twitter, where there was a link on Twitter, went to look at it, and it said, you can't see this because of Cloudflare are down or something like that.
Yes, and it's funny, actually, there's a website that we use all the time to track when services are down called Down Detector, and Down Detector went down as part of this massive outage.
That's rubbish.
So it was hard times for everyone. Cloudflare, it's sort of like, you could think of it like a receptionist or a security guard at the entrance of a very busy building. So lots of people are trying to come in, and it sort of manages that sort of process. So it'll stop cyber attacks, it'll stop when bots are trying to come to the website, and it'll also hopefully help websites load faster for you.
Yeah.
Now, they have this thing called a bot management system, which is basically when bots turn up at a website and they want to do this thing called crawl it, which is basically look at the information on it. Some websites don't want too many bots turning up because it puts a lot of load on it. This bot management system basically broke down, started duplicating loads of files, exceeded its memory limit and crashed.
Wow.
So that any website that was using this bot management system to prevent too many bots coming to it crashed as well, which obviously led for several hours to this massive outage. Initially, they thought it was a cyber attack. They thought it was this type of cyber attack where basically a website gets flooded with loads of fake views and it crashes the website, overloads it. It turns out it wasn't a cyber attack, it was just this bungle. It's quite interesting because last month we saw another outage from Amazon Web Services, which is another company behind the scenes that is managing websites. And you know, it seems increasingly common that it's these behind the scenes systems that are crashing. I suppose probably the only upside is that you're sort of glad that it's a bug and not a cyber attack, because now they can fix it before maybe a bad actor finds out about this and takes it down, you know, for nefarious reasons. But it's not good when half the internet crashes and you're just trying to... I mean, with the Amazon one, people were saying that their Alexa wasn't working, so they missed alarms. They were saying that their Ring doorbell footage was going missing. So, you know, it's real world, which is very different than, oh, I can't get on X, Twitter to see some memes.
But it shows you the vulnerability of systems, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
When stuff happens. I mean, what if that was on a, you know, a bigger scale or a, you know, a more profound scale? If we're talking about, I don't know, the NHS system or things like... I don't just mean the app, you know, when things become more system reliant and digitally connected, this is always going to be a problem.
I think we take it for granted that, you know, because you click on and it's a virtual world, but ultimately all of this stuff is tied to physical infrastructure. You know, when you're going on websites, you're talking about cables under the sea and radio signals flying through the air. And I think we just forget because it's such a simple, you know, you tap on your phone and something loads. But for that to happen, it's such a complicated system that's developed over decades and decades. And it is vulnerable. And, you know, certainly I would say the government is worried about undersea cables and infrastructure, and we should be, because you know, as we can see, it can just take one simple tiny bug and half the internet goes down.
Or a mischievous staff member. It could be that.
Someone sat on the wrong key.
Sorry if I was sounding a bit distracted there, Sean. I was just watching a video of a horse juggling kittens.
It's very impressive.
It's really good. I think that one's real, actually. It's definitely
It must be.
It looks amazing.
Get the fact checkers on it.
Let's talk about Netflix's secret new app. This does sound exciting. Or is it?
Oh, you know, it's pretty good. So actually, Netflix has done three things. The first one is that they've added some party games to the app. So if you're a Netflix subscriber, you can play Boggle and Pictionary and then some kids games.
Finn's loving it. This is reminding him of, you know, he likes the Lego one, he said.
It's good. It's brilliant because if you've got a Netflix subscription, it's free, it's wrapped in. You use your phone as a controller, you can play these games. But they've also released a new Netflix app called Netflix Puzzled, which basically gives you free puzzles that you can play every day. And you don't need a Netflix subscription for that. But it'll also get you some behind-the-scenes footage of, like, Stranger Things or K-pop Demon Hunters, some of the big franchises. So if you're a Netflix fan, but maybe you don't want to pay for a Netflix subscription, this is a nice way to get involved, get some free puzzles. And then they're also giving away a video game called Red Dead Redemption. So I don't know if you've probably heard of Grand Theft Auto.
Of course.
Well, the makers of that also make this. It's basically like Grand Theft Auto, but in the Wild West.
Grand Theft Auto can't get their next game out, for God's sake.
You know, I think about this all the time, and I think I actually don't mind that it's delayed because I'd rather it be good. And I think if I've waited this long, I mean, the last one came out about a decade ago.
Is it next November or
It's next November, well, for now, but, you know, who knows? I don't want to jinx it. But I think if I've waited this long, I can wait a few more months. Because it's going to be massive. I mean, we've seen the trailers, we've seen very early footage, and it looks incredible, really. It's sort of approaching real life. And this one's set in a sort of fake version of Florida, so you can have crocodiles. It's going to be good fun.
Yeah, or horses juggling kittens.
Maybe, but they might have AI in the game, who knows?
Here's a nice one to finish on. It was an awkward moment for President Putin, who was kind of forced. You know, lots of leaders are forced into, you know, you've got to watch a show and then clap and be interested. You've got to watch a kid at a school, you know, singing a song or whatever. This was in that territory where they wanted to show an AI-powered humanoid, essentially a robot, and you can see the imagery here now. Dancing in front of Putin.
I mean, incredible footage. When you think he's such a serious man, and then it's almost like
see it
surreal,
on your screens
isn't it?
if you're watching this.
Quite farcical to witness.
I mean, wouldn't it have been more impressive if the robot looked like a human?
I think these humanoid robots are very interesting because it, you know, obviously stems from this idea of sci-fi, but are they particularly practical? I think it's like quite an interesting showcase of what we can do, but I don't know if it's particularly useful. I was actually looking at some Amazon robots last month when I was at one of their warehouses, and one of the guys who works in Amazon Robotics, he said to me that the most difficult thing with robotics is manipulation. It's still that physically manipulating objects. It's the thing they struggle with most. And he said to me, the hardest part about beating a grandmaster at chess for a robot is moving the chess pieces, which I thought was a really interesting idea.
So that's the bit they're still struggling to
we
get
take
the
for
dexterity.
granted our hands. They're such incredible machines, and obviously AI can do thinking very well, but still manipulating objects is difficult.
It's tricky for them. Yeah,
but maybe this Russian robot will. I don't know.
I think probably his defence minister was in a costume. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Having a little
well, I mean, Tesla's trying to do a humanoid robot as well.
They're all trying to do everything.
I know. You get a bit fatigued. Even I'm tech fatigued, and I love tech.
Tech fatigued. Sean, always great to get you on.
Thanks for having me.
Look forward to watching that video of you that you recorded earlier, the one of you on the elephant.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's brilliant. That's your best work. It's fantastic. Doing a tech review at the same time while cartwheeling. Can't wait. And falling off Niagara Falls.
I can juggle, so if you see me juggling online, it might be... I can juggle, yeah.
Can you juggle?
I'll bring in some juggling balls next time.
Well, you've got a kind of circusy background, or what?
No, I just learned I like weird hobbies. I'm very good at the ukulele as well. So if you want me to juggle, I can't do them at the same time, but I could come in and sing my segment next week.
At the same time, frankly, that's your surplus to requirements in that department. Sure. Juggle, and can you juggle ukuleles though? I mean, that would be
I could give it a go, but I wouldn't want to break the ukulele.
Listen, Britain's Got Talent is applications are open for the next series. We will watch with interest. Great to see you, Sean.
Thanks for having me.
Sean Keach is Head of Science and Technology over there at The Sun. Thank you to him. More from you in a moment. It's 10 to 4. This is Talk. Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
We're going to chat to Kevin O'Sullivan. Sean is in on Drive this afternoon. Before all of that, Maria is in Basingstoke. Maria, what have you got for us? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I've been listening all afternoon and heard an awful lot about the threat from China and Russia. My only concern is that if one of them did decide to invade, we'd have Keir Starmer, on the front lines with what's left of our army dashing around, dishing out tea, biscuits and welcome mats and application forms for benefits.
That might be the case. Maybe that's the new use for the army, Maria.
Well, we've got so few of them now.
Yeah.
And let's face it, the ones we have got left are being wasted.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't got it. I mean, clearly, you know, things change over the years. I get that. We couldn't go to war like we did, you know, back in the 30s and 40s. That wouldn't be possible.
Probably just as well, because
well,
if
thank
we
goodness,
did, we'd be stuffed.
Oh, it'd be stuffed in about half an hour. Yeah, it would be rubbish, wouldn't it? Wouldn't look very good on the telly, as my nan would say.
Well, I come from a military family, and I could cry at the state of it now.
Of where we've got to.
Yeah.
I hear you. Maria, thank you very much indeed for that, Maria in Basingstoke. This one from Gareth regarding Burnham and Clive Lewis stepping down to make way via a by-election. There's no certainty Labour would win, especially given the current popularity levels. Well, the constituency seat of Clive Lewis is Norwich South. I think I've got that right. Where he won at the last election, 2024, spectacularly. The Greens came second. The Greens came second in that by-election. I think the Tories came third and the Lib Dems came fourth. Reform came fourth, the Lib Dems came fifth. There you go. So it was a... Gareth is right. I mean, that is the problem that they would have, given the way everything is split, and you couldn't have conceived the idea that we would have predictions of a reform government, you know, a year ago with 5 MPs. But that's how it's looking. So, yeah, anything could change. They might not win it. Richard is over there in North London on defence. Richard, what have you got for us?
Yeah, very quickly, Ian. People are getting ahead of themselves of talking about this war because... A couple of weeks ago, we all know that veteran said he doesn't feel that it would be worth. He doesn't feel the sacrifice that.
That's right. Was it worth it all those years ago?
His colleagues made was worth it. Yeah. And if he doesn't think that, then why would anybody else? Because I put it to you that there are two fundamental reasons. Two reasons why people like someone like him might say that. And of course, people don't really want to hear this point, but it has to be said. People like him fought for what they thought was a homogenous society. Correct. They didn't fight for a multicultural society. And many people of that generation, which of course is dying out now, felt that they weren't adequately consulted about the creation of the multicultural society. So there's a sense in which people feel, well, why would they fight for society that they don't really recognise anymore?
Yeah, I mean, there was that sense, but I think also there were so many other elements of society, the speed of life, the digital world, lots of other things that people are not so proud of, that we were told would be game-changing for the positive.
Yes, I guess so, Ian, but there's a second quite important thing, which is that probably since 1965 or the 70s, because of the multicultural society, the legislation around what people can say means that you can actually be sent to prison for inciting something. And if you think about it, apparently racism wasn't even illegal before 1965. So we've created a society where, in a sense, we're moving towards thought control. So why would people fight for a society where we don't actually have free speech?
Yeah, I hear it, but of course, free speech and incitement are two different things, I guess. But I hear your point, though, Richard, and thank you. And nobody should be going to jail unless you have directly orchestrated the murder of somebody via social media. You shouldn't be going to jail for something you wrote on Twitter. But I can understand once in a while you might get a telling off from whether it's your boss or the old bill. Kevin O'Sullivan is here after the news. I didn't even realise you, because I've been off for a couple of days.
I know you have, yeah.
So I didn't know
you were missed.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And now you're here.
Yes, indeed. I'm doing Drive until tomorrow. So.